It's terrible. It's freezing. I woke up here to minus 18 degrees.
Nice.
I think you're the farthest north of all of us, correct?
At the moment, yes.
Yep. So I'm sure we'll get a more north person before the day is out. I got it. Tracy, we're ready to rock and roll.
Great. Okay, should we get started?
Absolutely.
Sausage links. Okay, this is our fusion event. This is our first big Connect Show fusion event. We're having it on Zoom this time. I think it's going to be great. And I'm Tracy, and this is Jon, and we're your co-hosts for today. Kim Knock is our networking girl. We'll be hanging out in the chat. So if you have any questions, Kim is there to answer them. And we are excited to get started and share our program with you.
And the fusion event is a focused training session to help you get unstuck, get a little further in your business, and get into the right mindset with great strategy and implementation. We want to help you achieve your 2022 goals, whatever year it is, and get your business to the next level. So I think, a few things to help you get ready would be to mute your mic while the presenters are speaking. And as a respect to our speakers, maybe don't eat oatmeal or chew gum loudly while on camera. But what we would like you to do is ask lots of questions and participate in the event. So if you could grab a pen and paper or a notebook that you're going to use to help keep track of all this great information, we can get ready to rock.
And if you have not already subscribed to any of our channels, we are on podcast, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebooks. And if you have any questions for us, which you can reach out to us at theideas@theconnectshow.com. If you are not on Zoom right now and you're watching this over on LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook right now, you can go to bit.ly /theconnectshow.com or The Connect Show to join us. And you can also ask all the guests your questions also.
That's a great opportunity to get involved. So today we have some amazing, amazing guests. Our guests are David Goodall, Chris Rivera, Jeremy Fojit. We did this pronunciation, didn't we? It's not on there anymore. Serena Talbot, Eleanor Beaton, Precious Williams, Mike Verrett, Tracy Champagne, and John Taylor are all going to be here to present to you some pretty new and exciting information. So we're looking forward to it.
And while the presenters are doing their presentations, please put your contact information in the chat. I do hope that everybody does get to mingle in the chat a little bit with people, maybe set up some one-on-ones, do a little networking. This is great with all the virtual technology that we have now, that we can have little conversations while we're learning from our presenters. And I love how it's so engaging every single time you get on a Zoom event. Next week, we're going to have Melissa Blair from Cultivating Sales and Michael Feiger from Devil Dog Marketing. So next week, that's our last week on sales and marketing, guys. And then we're moving on to finances. So if you want to learn any more about sales and marketing, which are going to get you some great finances, you only got one more week to do it. So next week is the last week. And don't forget, we didn't tell anybody about this yet, so they can't forget. We didn't tell them about it yet. Should we tell them about it now?
So they don't forget.
Right. Why don't you explain it? Because you ran across that one post from Elon Musk and you just say it so well. So you can give them the pretense on why we're doing what we're doing.
No pressure. Okay. So Elon Musk had a quote and he said, when you have a baby, you get a baby shower. And when you get married, you get a bridal shower. But when you start a small business, you're left to figure it out on your own. And wouldn't it be nice if there was an opportunity for small businesses to provide the resources and the tools for a small business to succeed? So when we first started the show, almost a year ago, we started talking about this. We had this idea of how can we be that business shower, that small business shower for a company that's starting out that would need these tools and these resources. Our initial thought was, well, we'll provide this weekly show. And as we started talking more, we said, let's do something really big. Let's give away thousands of dollars in resources to a small business to help them jumpstart, help them get unstuck, help them succeed. And we have a lot of advisors on this panel, and there's a lot of good information on what we should give people and how we should give and what that looks like. So Tracy, you set up a really nice intake form for people on both sides. Can you explain that a little bit?
So on the Connect Show website, there's a spot that says business shower on there. It's underneath one of the main tabs. And when you click on that, there'll be a form on the left and a form on the right. The form on the left is for the small business to enter into winning the shower. Any small business can enter to win the shower. You don't have to be new at a small business, because we have found that small businesses evolve at all sorts of different time frames. Somebody could be in business for 10 years and be at the same place as a business who was in one for one. So because some people are working full-time jobs, it's just so individual. So we don't care how long you've been in business. Everybody should be able to be eligible for a business shower. But we know that there's a lot of small business owners out there that would love to contribute a resource as a gift to the winner for the small business shower. So the form on the right is the place where if you're a small business owner that would also like to contribute, you can put some information in there about what you would want to contribute. We do plan to do these business showers 3 times a year. So the winner for this small business shower will be announced at our next Fusion event in May. So you'll have 3 months of entries, 3 months to think about what you would like to contribute to a small business shower. And I can't wait to put on the small business shower. I can't wait.
It's going to be great. And I think it's kind of like, having a big idea, a big dream. And I think, was it David last week said, have an impossible dream. And so this is our impossible dream, and we'd love to share it. Mm-hmm. So you ready to get into this?
I am ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready. So our first guest is our good friend of the show and longtime listener, David Goodall, and he is the founder of Tap Mental. David assists entrepreneurial minded leaders that's a twister, to align their energy, skills, and business processes to achieve their dreams. And David, welcome to the show. We're so glad to have you here.
I love being here. You guys are awesome. This is just what a great idea. Like a business shower. That is, I got teenage kids now, and I know what you mean. Like you get help in every area, but as soon as you go out on your own, you are on your own. It is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're excited about it.
So David, this the format that we're doing is you're gonna do a presentation, and then when you get done, we are gonna let everybody have plenty of questions for you. So we are gonna let you take it away.
Perfect. Well, I want to thank you guys for challenging me, because I've got my oldest daughter's autistic. So I fell in love with the neuroscience idea, learning how the brain works. So I love the mindset strategies. But what I hate about groups like this is you come in and someone does this teaching and you go away with this aha, but no to-dos. So what I want to do is give you a quick little mind bomb, like how we process, how our brain works. And I'm going to give you some action steps so you can leave with something today and actually put it into practice today. Does that sound good to everybody?
Yep.
Awesome. So with the challenge you guys gave me, 10 minutes is not a lot of time. So I was trying to think of what is a key factor. If I look at all of my clients and that the top 1% that I could look at this key trait that makes them successful. So, and what I did is I did a deep dive and I found one commonality, and I'm going to share that with you guys. But before I share it, I'm going to drop into a little mindset strategy if I can figure out. So what most people don't realize, I love the word sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. But words can never hurt me. Words have emotional triggers. They do have meaning. So we can always say that they won't hurt me, but unconsciously, however we programmed a word or whatever it means, the tone, the way we receive a word is going to determine whether we take action or we fight or we flight or we shut down. The one thing I want you guys to recognize, did you know that the human brain can't comprehend the negative? Has anybody ever heard of that before? Me. Don't think of a pink elephant. You have to think of it to not think of it. So how many times a day in our business are we looking at an obstacle? And I just lost my screen. Bear with me. How many times a day do we look at an obstacle and we're like, oh, don't do that, don't do that. And we end up doing that, right? Our brain can't comprehend the don't do because you have to think about it or process it. And what we think about, we attract. Let me give you a good example here. Step one of what I notice my people is they focus on what they want, not what they don't want, right? So when you don't think of the pink elephant, you automatically think of a pink elephant. Now you have to wipe it from your brain, but now it's in the back of your head and you're trying to get onto the next task. So people that are really good at this, it's that time of year, right? Are snow skiers. If you take a snow skier, you drop them in the woods, call it glade skiing. I don't know if anybody's done glade skiing before, but if you focus on the trees as a skier, what are you going to do? You're going to hit the trees. So a snow skier in the woods has to be focusing on the path. They have to know the obstacles exist, know that they're there, but focus on the path they want to be taking, right? They got to look for the snow, look for the tracks, look for the snow. And a lot of times in businesses, there's tons of tracks out there. There's people that have paved the path before. Go find those people, find the paths that are kind of already there and make them your paths, right? So focus on the path in front of you. So what is that key factor that the top 1% of business owners and leaders leverage for success? It's the ability to be aware of the obstacles, but focusing on the path. So it's that ability to make a quick decision. Obstacles are always going to show up. We need to identify them, not get in them, be aware of them. What's the path now? If there's a tree here, how do I get around it, right? Take action immediately. So then what I did is I took it a step further, right? When we identify the obstacle, we have to, what most people do is we get stuck in the don't want. Like, it's funny, I gave my wife some homework. She kept complaining about stuff. We have teenage kids. We've got they're starting driving school. They're both athletes. And she kept having this complaint. I'm like, why don't you get a notebook, put a piece of paper, put a line down the middle. When something comes up that's irritating you, write, I don't want. And on the other side, if that was gone, what would the outcome be? Don't want to want. So I helped her. I just identify the don't wants are showing up. What is it that you do want now? What's the next step towards the want? And don't delay. How many people here are leaders where they'll have a team member come to them and they're like, hey, when can you have that to me? Oh, I'll have it to you Friday, close of business. A lot of times we see that task to get around the obstacle is a 500-pound gorilla. And most of the time that 500-pound gorilla is a 20-minute exercise, right? So a lot of times if we're a leader, even ask ourselves, I brought on a marketing team a few weeks ago and they wanted this big onboarding interview. And oh my gosh, like overwhelmed. I'm a dyslexic, so trying to get all this stuff filled out. I'll do it tomorrow. Do you know when tomorrow is? Our unconscious mind hears tomorrow. We wake up tomorrow and tomorrow is tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes. So whenever we have this task, when we find the obstacle, we find the path, do it now. So if you want to 7x time to resolution, stop the Friday by 5. How about today by 5? So what I noticed, my key performers, they identify the obstacles, don't focus on the obstacle. They shift to what they want, then they take action. They put a timestamp on it. They get it done by the end of the day, and they move on. So I guess I came up pretty quickly. I finished in under 10 minutes. So any questions? John's on mute, it looks like, if he was talking.
There we go. That was great. I love the one thing that grabbed me was when you talked about skiers thinking of the trees and not the snow. And that triggered, like when I used to play sports, I was a good defender, but I wasn't a good, like I was good at cornerback, but I wasn't a good receiver.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't see that space in between. That's what it triggered for me. I don't know if that's true, but you know.
Well, I mean, we all do it in our business, right? We go to our default behaviors and strategies. What we're good at, we elevate. That's what we go towards, right? But a lot of times when we have these obstacles, that's why I love that whole business shower idea. When you get this network of people, I ended up hiring a marketing company because I've been trying to do it for 2 years. I'm just not good at it. I'm not passionate about it. I know what kind of needs to be done and I'm not going to do it. So rather than make that an obstacle, I turned it in. What's the path? What do I need to get that accomplished? Who do I need to hire? What questions do I need to ask? You know, so it's what's that action we need to take? And the longer we delay taking action, the bigger the obstacle. Let's get over that obstacle, right?
Yeah. So what's one exercise we could do as a group? How about you unshare your screen real quick?
Yes, sir.
And then everybody can see everyone. What is one exercise that we could do with this and kind of identifying some of those key points that you brought up?
Yeah, if there's currently an obstacle in your business right now that looks like the 500-pound gorilla, first recognize it, that it's got you stumped. And then if it was gone, what had to happen? So as opposed to what you don't want, if that was gone, what would you be getting? What is it you want?
That's pretty interesting. Tracy, do you have one?
Well, I like the weight analogy. Like everybody's trying to lose weight. So if you, Elson, like if I was this weight that you're dreaming of, or this physical fitness body of whatever you want that you're thinking that you want to get, how do you, because you can easily say, oh, I'll work on that tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you make that more positive?
What's one thing you can do today, right? Well, I had a client of mine that he loves his sweets, right? Loves his apple pie a la mode. And he's like, but I don't want to give that up. I'm like, well, what's one thing that you do every day that you know is destroying your weight loss? He goes, I drink a 6-pack of Coca-Cola every day. I'm like, whoa. Well, what happened if you got rid of just that? If you just stopped drinking Coke, what would that do for you? He's like, I don't know. I'll try it for 2 weeks. He got rid of the Coke, and next thing you know, he's better choices at dinners. He's starting to plan his meals. He went from 210 pounds down to 155.
Whoa.
Got rid of the Coca-Cola. Sugar was spiking his insulin. He was chasing food when he wasn't really hungry. It was a mess.
So you imagine what your life would be like if you were that person, and then you apply those things today to get to that point where you are that person.
Yeah. What I find most people do is I actually had a client this morning. She's like, well, I'm putting a plan together. And what if I can't follow the plan to a T? I said, the plan is just the initiator to take action. A lot of times we put plans in place and think, well, that's the plan I have to do. No, the plan is to get you off your butt and get moving. Plans can shift. So if I need to lose weight, what's one thing I can do today? You do that. How did that contribute? What else could I do? And the plan keeps building until that momentum gets faster and faster and faster. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah, I'm guilty of it too. It's like it gets so overwhelming and so heavy, I just don't do anything. Then that procrastination kicks in, but it's like, whoa, stop. What's one thing I can do right now? Like I can do right now within the next 24 hours. And by doing that, I can prove to myself that I can take action. I can start to solve this problem. I see Chris shaking his head.
I think that's such an important part of, just achieving goals, especially if you have a big goal. It's hard to make huge leaps, but if you just do one thing every day, one small thing, you can hit those. Yeah. No matter how big the goal is, you can at least get closer. So if there's any questions, Gail, did you have something?
Well, I did, since you guys were talking about food and I was eating my lunch. So Dave, I like what we're talking about. I know when we were setting goals, it really came down to what are the processes we need to put into place? How do we watch the metric of that? And then, adapt as things are happening that we can't control.
Yeah.
So sometimes I wonder, you can only control what you can control. Not that that's an excuse, but I mean, what do you do when some things are out of your control? I mean, I would imagine other people in companies.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is I'm an engineer by trade, so I love data. I've got an old client of mine. He managed about $80 million in property management up in Maine. And what he would do is he made a date with himself every Friday at a coffee shop for an hour. And he'd pull out his yellow legal pad and he'd mark down all of the accomplishments, all those gorillas he tackled that week. And he looked at what gorillas were still available or still in front of him. And then he would recognize, okay, who are my muscles on my team? Who's got the skills that could help? And he'll actually delegate on his legal pad. So he'll have gratitude for his accomplishments, look at what still struggles are available, and then he'll look at how that Monday morning huddle with his team, who he can delegate these resources to, asking them to get it done by Monday. Because that Monday is taking action. Maybe this little project he thinks that can be done by Monday might take till Friday, but at least getting that person to take action towards that gets momentum towards it. And then they've got more data. Well, we thought it was going to do this, but for example, if they had repairs in a unit, maybe they thought they had a small leak, small patch of the roof. No, actually all the shingles got to come off. Oh crap, that's not going to be a one-day thing. Now we got to dig in, do more research and that kind of stuff. So does that answer your question, Gail?
Yeah, I think actually it's a good idea sometimes just to I'm taking it as just step back. Just step back and start looking at it and writing about what you're seeing. And I always believe there is one thing we can grasp. We can adapt, or change our environment, or, like when you're talking about food, maybe when I'm in my office, I want to have a drawer of stuff in there, things like that.
Well, our ego is really protective, right? I mean, John, you experienced this before the event talk started today. These links were changing. When we go into a fight or flight energy, we block our critical thinking up to 90%. So the more engaged we are with the problem, the less likely that we're going to be able to solve it. That's why building teams, getting collaborators, finding skill sets around you, going, hey, this is a problem. I'm blind. Who can help? Someone give me some feedback. That's why we build teams, right? Because we don't want to attract people just like ourselves, because then we're surrounded by people with the same strengths and weaknesses, and then we're fighting over strengths and weaknesses. I need to hire people that fill the gap for my weaknesses, right? And that's a great example, Gail. Step back. What's the problem? What don't I see? Who can I collaborate with my team? Let's solve this problem.
I was just going to say, and I've discovered even if you do have people that have a lot of the same expertise that you do, sometimes you're so busy in other things that are pulling your focus and your attention that you don't see something that's just so obvious. And it helps to have other people who are just not as focused on those projects as you are, where they can pick up on the obvious and just say, hey, well, you got to do this. Oh yeah, right. Yeah, I remember. Because your brain can only do so much in one day.
Exactly. I can't tell you how many times, my wife's not involved with my business, but I'll have her come sit on the chair right here while I'm doing tasks, just to kind of present to her what I'm doing, to kind of get her insight. It's like, and then to hear myself speaking to her who knows nothing about what I'm doing, it kind of opens up and it's like, oh, I completely didn't see that. Now that I'm explaining it to you. Yeah. So it's a lot of times just having that second set of eyes, a different perspective. It's like, ooh, now there's that obstacle I couldn't see. I was going to say that stressful blindness. How many people have been running to get out the door looking for their car keys and they're right on the counter in front of them? You're so stressed. They're right there. I can't see them. It's that situational blindness that happens in a business. Good.
I was going to bring up that same point about losing things. If you ever lose something, if you're saying, I can't find my keys, you can't find them. They could be like right in front of you. But if you ever lose something, if you just say, if you're calm, I always use the Jedi Force. I'm one with the keys are one with me. And then I let the Jedi powers have the keys find me. I'll walk in the other room right to them. It's the weirdest thing. It totally works. Either that or I'm a Jedi. I don't know which one it is.
That's a superpower I didn't know about.
Yeah, that's that do wuxia, like just Drop your shoulders, take a deep breath. Where's the last time I saw them? Like, I know they're here. I know they exist.
I'm gonna remember that. So when you're losing something, I could say, just become one with it, John. Become one.
You know what's the best? I'll give you the best suggestion is when my dad had to go to the airport really, really early because he just felt like he needed to. And it was like 4 a.m. and I lost my keys and I'm looking all over the apartment. I'm tired as can be. And my dad's like, you know, the best way to not lose your keys is you got to have a key rack. And he's giving me all these suggestions on how to not lose my keys. That's super not helpful when you're losing your keys at 4 a.m. That's not helpful advice.
We have a few more minutes with Dave. Does anybody else have any questions for him?
Dave, I really appreciate having you back. You've just got us all in the right mindset. We are going to find our marketing solution because
Awesome.
Our eyes are open to it now.
So focusing on you, what you want, not the obstacle.
Absolutely.
No elephants, no pink elephants.
Exactly. Well, thank you guys. This is a pleasure. I love working with you guys.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for coming on.
Yep, thank you. And don't forget, so we do have our small business shower for people who have just joined us. It's at theconnectshow.com/small business owner hyphen between all the words, and we'll put it in the chat.
And our
the
next
small
guest? Oh.
Yes, yep. Our next guest is you.
Okay. Our next guest is Chris Rivera. Chris works with entrepreneurs and network marketers on how to close that gap to begin following through the action steps that generate revenue and clients. Chris helps them build within themselves the future successful self that is worthy of achieving their goals. When his clients begin operating from that future successful self, success is no longer a guessing game. Success becomes guaranteed. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be back. I love this. I loved the first time around a few months ago. And so I'm so grateful that you guys invited me back. And I'm really grateful that I got to follow Dave because I love what he said. It was just so important to focus on what do you want? And I think too often people are focused on what they don't want. And that's what's inspired me so much to do what I do, because the world can easily be a negative place. If you watch the news, if you just follow gossip or what's going on in politics, it's just so easy. So how do we get focused on the things that we want? Because I'm sure we've all heard that phrase, where focus goes, energy flows. And what I love about entrepreneurship and business owning is that it is the greatest personal development journey you will ever have to go through. If you want to improve yourself as a business owner, or if you want to improve your business, first of all, you have to improve yourself. Because I think we all understand that we don't necessarily have business problems. We have personal problems that show up in our business. For example, if you're not following through on the things you should be doing in your life, if you're not, like I said, following through, showing up on time, more than likely that's going to show up in your business. So we kind of figured that out. So what do? We go and look for all this personal development information to improve ourselves. But there is so much out there, from YouTube videos to podcasts, mentors, coaches, programs, books. There is so much. But what I found is that so many people are not utilizing all the information that they've gathered. And that can be really frustrating. Imagine all the money and time you've put into that, and you're not seeing the results you want. If that happens long enough, you start to doubt whether, am I worthy of success? Is there something wrong with me? And I'd hate to be in that position, because the longer you go through that, you start to settle. And to know that you could be up here, but settling for this, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. That's the worst feeling. So we do have to improve ourselves, but why would we if we don't have a reason? So I'm going to ask you a question, and it may not make sense at first, but I'm going to explain it. Why would you waste your time with all the personal development information out there if you don't have a goal. If you don't have a goal, why would you even need it? Do you know how many times I hear people say, I need to be more confident, I need to be more disciplined? My answer is like, okay, why do you need to be? And then they're like, oh, because I'm supposed to be. Well, supposed to be is not a good answer. All right, doctor says I'm supposed to be healthy. I don't care what the doctor wants. What do you want? Because to improve ourselves, we know we have to step out of our comfort zone, right? And I love that example that Dave gave about that gentleman who, stopped drinking those 6 packs of Cokes. He knew what he wanted. But let's suppose that someone wants to give up drinking, but they have a lot of fun going out with their friends and kicking back a few. If they're going to give up drinking, that means they're going to potentially lose that social camaraderie with people. So why would you do it? You have to have a reason. And Tracy, to your point, when people want to release weight or change their body, why? I was talking with the gentleman the other day, and he said, oh, I just want to get healthier. I'm like, his name was Joe. Joe, why do you want to do it? Oh, because I'm supposed to. And I said, but if you give up drinking, you're going to lose that time with all your friends. So what do you really want? And he says, well, I've always wanted to run the Chicago Marathon. I'm like, great. Let's make that your goal. Let's make that your focal point. As Dave said, you have to focus on what it is you want, but you have to give yourself a great reason for that. And once you really get emotionally involved in it, now it's easier to start taking in all that information you've gathered and putting it to use. Because a few weeks ago, I was asked to talk to some students, and I was given a couple of topics. I said, Chris, there's 4 topics you could talk about: how to set and achieve goals, how to have the right mindset, how to step out of your comfort zone, and how to have confidence. And I told the instructor, do you realize your students are asking the same question just in 4 different ways? Because we know we're supposed to get out of our comfort zone. We know that if we want to grow our business, we're going to have to do things that get us out of our comfort zone. But why would you do that if you didn't have a great reason? Because stepping out of your comfort zone is inherently uncomfortable. For the most part, I find a lot of people are just comfortably unhappy. They're not where they want to be in life, but they're just comfortable enough that, I'm getting by. I can get by with this. Why would you want to get out of your comfort zone if you didn't have a reason? And it always comes back to, what is your goal? And unfortunately, most people are just walking generalities. I want to lose more weight. I want to earn more money. I just want to get better health. That's not a goal. You have to know what it is you want. I don't care if it's you want to go work for a specific organization, if you want to build your real estate or your insurance company to $500,000, or if you want to go and start a business that helps other moms, get specific on it. Because once you become emotionally involved in that, now do you think you have a reason to get out of your comfort zone? Do you think you have a reason to jump out of bed? Because if you know what you want and you're willing to get out of your comfort zone and you start doing those things, doesn't that kind of build your confidence? And once you have enough confidence, you're like, you know what? Let me go do that other thing that's a bit out of my comfort zone. So if you know what it is you want and you're genuinely inspired to do it, you have that burning obsession, you're getting out of your comfort zone and you're building your confidence, isn't that the definition of a positive mindset? This really is a holistic approach to personal development designed to bring out the best version of you. And I think too many people are approaching personal development like the Western medicine system does it. Because we all know the Western medicine system treats people as individual body parts. You got cardiologists, you got neurologists, osteopractors, everything. And when you go and try and fix one part by giving it some medicine, you're going to create some side effects in other parts, right? Well, people are waking up that that's probably not the best solution. you heal the body, you make it better by treating it as one holistic system. When it comes to personal development, I find people are treating it as different parts. Like, I got to first figure out how to be confident. Okay, once I figure that out, then I will go figure out how to get out of my comfort zone. And then, I got to learn about what's this positive mindset thing. Because once I have all that, then I'll figure out what my goal is. No, that's completely backwards. You first figure out what it is you want. And then you move from there. Creating that inspired goal for yourself has been, and always will be the starting point of any great achievement. But I think so many people have been conditioned to believe that you can't stretch yourself. You know, I know in school, they never taught us about goals. We're told your goal is to get good grades. And then when you get out of school, you're like, your goal is to get a good paying job with benefits. Yeah, what about happiness, fulfillment, joy, peace, desire? None of that is ever talked about. So we're told what our goals should be, but I ask people, what it is you want? And they say, I don't know what it is I want. And I'm like, no, I don't believe you. I think you do know something that you want. I think you just pushed it aside. I think you just pushed it aside so much that you don't even want to think about it. But the truth is, that's the thing you really want. And that's the thing that would get you out of bed and start moving and start living life. Because whatever your goal is, I don't care what it is, the opportunities you need to start fulfilling it are everywhere around you. Every day, you have the opportunity to make a phone call to that prospect. Every day, you can just go create an opportunity, whatever it is. But why would you go look for it unless you were first deeply inspired? And I think that a lot of people are just waiting for the perfect moment. But the people who are constantly losing life are the ones who are always waiting for the perfect moment. They're procrastinating. The winners find a way to make the moment perfect. And when I talk to people, I say, listen, what if you didn't have to wait for the perfect circumstances? What if procrastination wasn't really the issue? What if you just didn't really create that desire? Think about the confidence you would earn from taking action in the worst circumstances, and you still found a way to get it, what you wanted. The confidence you get would be sweet. It would propel you to new things. But I think the number one most underrated skill, and I learned this from an entrepreneur named Tom Bilyeu. He said, I am really good at creating desire with myself. Can you learn to create desire within yourself? It's possible. Like Dave said, focus on what you want, because the more you just get scatterbrained and focus on all the things you don't want, how are you ever going to focus and build that desire for what it is you really want? So to make this a little more interactive, take a second. I'm going to ask you a few questions and think about what it is. You know, what was your monetary goal? How much money did you make in 2021? Hold that number for a second. And then think about how many clients did you have in 2021? Now those numbers, I want you to double them. And what if that was your goal in 2022? Does it sound a little scary? That's the point. The whole point is to stretch, to do something you've never done. Because it's not about getting that, it's about the person you have to become. People say, oh, how would I ever get that goal? You're asking the wrong how. Like Dave said, you just get a plan to start. The rest of the plan, you figured out along the way. But the true question you should be asking yourself, it's not how are you going to do it, it's how do you become the person worthy of achieving it? Because once you do that, now you start thinking, how do I start thinking like the person who would earn $500,000? What kind of things would a leader do? And am I the things I'm doing right now in my life, are they in alignment with that? Because if they're not, you're not thinking from the end result. You're not thinking as the person, as if you are that. And that's the secret of the ages. Act as if. People say, oh, how am I supposed to act as a millionaire if I don't have $1 million? You don't need $1 million to start acting like a millionaire. Okay. I think the biggest problem society has is we're conditioned to believe that someone would have to go into our bank account, see 7 figures before they allow us to call ourselves or 7-figure earners. I don't need permission. I don't need permission to see myself as a 7-figure earner. I can start doing the things right now that a 7-figure earner does. What do? Prospect really well, follow through on what they said they're going to do, recruit, become a great leader. You're doing those things by law, aren't you going to get what you want? So start thinking about what it is you want, because you can waste all your time with all the programs, coaches, books, and all that stuff. Here's the reality. None of that's ever going to change you. It won't. I coach people and I tell them, listen, I'm not going to change you. You won't change until you start reevaluating your beliefs about yourself. If you're not willing to do that, you don't deserve what it is you want, because it's your beliefs that ultimately determine your actions. You don't do what you know, you do what you believe. You can go grab all the information, but until you can believe it and until you believe you are worthy of it, nothing changes. So I hope that's been of value to you. I want to leave some time for Q&A if you have any questions. But I will say this, if you want to learn really how to create a burning desire within yourself, it's possible. There is a process. And once you have that, everything else, I'm not saying it's necessarily easier, but if you knew what you really wanted, would you worry about procrastination so much? Would you worry about what other people said? Would you be willing to get out of your comfort zone? So if you want to learn about that, I'm going to leave my Calendly link in the chat and also my website. You guys can look into it. I post a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, so feel free to check it out. Other than that, back to you, Tracy and John, for Q&A.
That was freaking awesome. I just love it. This was great. I mean, I'm inspired. I'm ready to go kick some ass.
I loved how it tied all into Dave's presentation too. Like it just meshed in so well. It was great.
It was a little too perfect, right?
Yeah.
You didn't call me either. Like there was no planning. It just worked out that way.
I do have a question though. So like people always talk about to be that person that you would be when you get to that place that you want to be, but how do you know how that person is? Like you've never been that person before. Maybe you don't know anybody in that position. So how do you get to know what it feels like when you're to be in that position? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. It's a really good question. And a lot of people do ask that. And the reality is you have to start imagining it. And I know that sounds like a simple answer, but here's where people go wrong. They start imagining it like, I want to be this, but simultaneously thinking, how can I be that if this is who I was? They let their memory get in the way. And I've found that people are using their memory against themselves instead of as a tool. I only use my memory in 2 ways. I remember the good things in my life, like my 2 daughters, and the accomplishments I had, and then information related to whatever goal I want. For example, for survival, I need to know that I shouldn't touch a burning hot stove. All right. What I don't need to do is go back and relive all the pain and trauma associated with it and how my mom had to put a Band-Aid and Neosporin on my hand. I don't need to remember that. I just need to know, don't touch the burning stove. Or more recently, I got into a bad business deal a while ago. It cost me a lot of money. And had I had the lawyer look at it, they would have saved me. So you know what I need to learn from that? Call my lawyer. That's it. I don't need to go relive the frustration I felt from losing that money. I don't have to relive the embarrassment I felt or all that stuff. I don't need to relive all that. There are instances in my life where I was embarrassed by people really bad at a job once. And they were embarrassing me behind my back, but they knew that I knew that it hurt a lot. Now, some of that was self-induced. I made some mistakes, but all you need to do, remember, is don't make those mistakes. I don't have to relive the pain and trauma that I felt from being embarrassed by so many people that I thought I respected. So to your question, only remember the positive things you've done. Focus on what it is you want. And the truth is, you'll start to begin thinking about how would that person act? Like Dave said, you don't have to have the entire plan laid out. But if you want to be a seven-figure earner, do you think a seven-figure earner is really good at following through on what they said they would do? Yeah, probably. So focus on just improving that one part of your life. Get really good at that. And then figure out, okay, what else would a seven-figure earner do? They probably get really good at speaking, like communicating. So maybe develop your communication skills. And what you're doing is you're proving to yourself that you're worthy of it. Like I said before, if you're getting out of your comfort zone, little bit by little bit, you're inherently building your confidence. And that confidence then allows you to get it more out of your comfort zone. And it builds and builds and builds while still focusing on the person you want to become. Because as long as you kind of do things that are in alignment with that goal, ideas come to you. And that's probably the hardest thing for people to grasp. But if you stay in the emotional desire of what it is you want, the ideas and the way is always shown to you. And sometimes in the weirdest of ways, there always is.
That's great stuff. Gail, you had a question.
So I was going to add to it. I guess one thing I just wanted to be said to Chris, great, Dave. I mean, you guys bounced it right off each other. Is really my MO. I would say throughout my whole career, and I'm well known for it now, which I didn't even realize I was going to build on that to where I am today, is really get out of yourself. Because I think when you take other people and elevate other people with you, and you start looking at ways every day to help someone else get to where they want to go, they're going to come back and help you. And so yesterday, somebody, like, I have people like, hey, you want to do lunch? I don't want to do lunch. I don't have time to drive there, sit there. I love the Zoom anymore because when they're asking for things, I can start sending it to them right there. I close it out. My meeting's done. I gave them everything they wanted. And I will tell you every day, yesterday I did it for someone and she's like, you exceeded any expectation I had of this call. You know, and like today, she's constantly going, do you know this? You know this? You know this person? You know, and so it's a little overwhelming, but I think when you take people alongside of you and you really, it's not about me gaining. I don't chase a dollar, but if I'm doing all the right things, a dollar comes. If I know where I'm headed to and I'm taking people along, it will come. Because people want to work with people that value other people too. So I just didn't want to lose that aspect of what you're saying. Your drive, your energy, and your enthusiasm is amazing, and just to wake up with that, I'm like, what do you eat and drink?
That's wonderful stuff. So thank you so much, Chris. That was a great presentation. We really appreciate it. And Gail, that was some great input, and we're gonna have to have you on all the time because you're so inspiring. You know, everybody here is so inspiring. This is just a great. We really landed on something good, Tracy.
Yep. Dave wants to add in a little bit of something too before we move on.
Yeah, I'll make it quick. But what I kind of heard Chris say there is we're all kind of like meaning making machines. We all have kind of these stories. We have these programs, strategies, and behaviors. They're old habits. And to answer your question, Tracy, what can we do to envision? So I'll just use a quick example. My wife, we're a huge athletic family, and my wife's trying to cycle more with my daughter, and she's racing mountain biking, and she's getting all these stories of competition. And I'm like, okay, stop. Give me an example of someone that you want to model or mirror. And she's like, well, Gabby Reese, she's an athlete. She's a pro volleyball. She's got daughters. She's got a husband that's got his own business. And I was like, go read her book. Then she came back and she's like, wow, I thought Gabby Reese was this person. She's like, I liked this strategy. I didn't like this strategy. But if I implemented this with my daughters, I could see that could help me with my athletics and my business. So it's like, there are people out there doing what you want. Go read their book, pick and choose their strategies and behaviors that you could implement in your life and do that.
Good
it's
stuff.
It's all about putting that vision in your head. But thank you, Chris. That was amazing. Thank you. We need to talk.
Wonderful. Yes. We're going to have to do a Chris and Dave show. This will be awesome.
I'm down for that. Thank you.
So next up, it's all you.
Okay, our next guest is Jeremy, and I'm gonna probably butcher this last name. Is it Fudget? He's gonna have to clarify it when he gets on. He's a serial entrepreneur, outdoor enthusiast, passionate
Passionate.
urbanist, and he's got a company called Like Minded, which is a super cool app, and we're looking forward to hearing more about it. Welcome, Jeremy.
Well, thanks for having me. And it's Foyette, French.
Foyette. Now we know.
Can we show some screens, or are we just doing no
Yep,
screen?
you can share your screen.
Okay.
Yeah, you should be.
Okay, 1 second. I didn't know if we're doing that.
So,
Cool. So I was going to talk a little bit about the app, and I'll do that, but I'll just give some context, because I thought, seeing that it's the connection show, I'd talk a little bit about the state of connection. So for the last 14 years, I've created a couple multi-million-dollar companies, one called Milwaukee and one called Nuance, Nuance being newer. And I really have dove into the psychology and neuroscience behind why people connect and things like that. So I figured I'd talk about that a little bit. I'll show you a little bit about what I'm working on, and hopefully that will help you understand why I'm building now what I'm building. And so the state of connection, I feel like as we even talk about how we're connecting right now, what you'll notice is we've really had a howling out of social connectivity among people. If you go around any type of research of people, you've realized that we are actually the most lonely we've ever been in society right now. 61% of people in Western culture claim to be lonely during COVID, but pre-COVID, actually, it was around 55%. So COVID had impact and spikes in it, but we have been lonely and slowly becoming more lonely as a society. And it's pretty disturbing. You've seen a rise in depression, you've seen a rise in divisiveness, you've seen a rise in suicide, you've seen a rise in many different things, all coming back to what we all crave as humans is why we connect. And so most of my life has been spent, and I'll just kind of tell you a little bit why that, and then I'll tell you what I'm building to solve that problem. First of all, we've kind of designed ourselves to be lonely. If you think about the last 50 years of how we've designed cities, we've designed cities around the automobile, but have developed and pushed us out of connecting with each other. We spend more time now alone in a car than we ever have in history. So we've removed human scale. There's a lot of psychology around micro interactions. And for a lot of you, you've probably went to a conference before and noticed that you might bump into somebody you know and haven't seen in a while, and how good that feels when you do that. Well, we used to design streets around this. They're called main streets, right? We used to, get our services and supplies, and we used to bump into strangers and have awkward conversations. We are slowly designing and sprawling our way out of that. So over the last 50 years, we've been consistently doing this, and we've kind of lost the neighborhood in a way, right? So every interaction has to be alone. When I think of my commute time, commute times are longer than ever been in human history. That's time less spent with friends and family. And we become now more distracted versus depth, right? To have a depth conversation, we do a lot of short calls and short things, and we don't get deeper. And social media is doing it. If you ever looked at anything around social penetration theory, you kind of start to look at relationships and interpersonal communications and how they actually develop, and how we've actually become more shallow as a society as we want things shorter. And that shallowness, like from a text, or even think about video games. We used to play video games with each other, even if they were online, and now everything's isolated again. You also think about delivery culture, which is on the rise and not going away. If everything is delivered, and that's another interaction you won't have with people. The future of work, it actually takes about 50 hours to turn a person you just met into a meaningful relationship, so an acquaintance. The future, now think about when you can have coffee and water cooler, and you can be in the cafeteria, or you can connect with people on a more fluid basis. That's expedited, right? But when you actually take that away, what used to be 50 hours turns into what could be the equivalent of about 6 months in interactions at work, now is going to be 12 months. Do we ever, and the question you kind of have to ask yourself is 67% of people have met a best friend through work. And now you kind of have to look at yourself and say, that old theory, if a tree falls in the woods and no one's around to hear it, or does it really fall? Well, now it's like, if I never really interact and meet my coworkers and build a relationship, am I really work with them? And we're kind of entering this weird workplace connection. And so my focus has always been on, how do we solve these problems? How do we solve these problems of isolation? And actually, the younger you get, the more lonely you get. So we think, maybe if you're a senior and you're living in a senior, you'd be more lonely. Actually, Gen Z is the loneliest generation we've ever seen. The spikes in the trauma is pretty substantial. It's like the silent pandemic. So I've been building communities forever, and don't think about this as like my community building as a philanthropic thing. Think about this as a community as building a business case. So you've seen the rise of communities right now. If you haven't been looking, even if you're a small business owner in the room, you're seeing the rise. We've always had passionate communities, people that build a community around passion, whether like I'm a big rock climber, I built like a lot of people that rock climb with me. That's a passion community. Sometimes those can be turned into profits. Sometimes they're more about like, this is what I want. This is what I surround myself with. But what you're seeing the huge rise of right now is talent communities. And a good example of this is Nike has built programming for people that used to work at Nike, programming for people that might want to work there. Salesforce does this. If you've ever been involved in Salesforce and know anything about them, they throw massive scale events all for people to get into their brand so they can hire them. So the rise of talent communities is happening on the coast. It's not happening as much in the Midwest. And finally, customer communities. I've been hired by corporations from across the country that build communities so they can sell to them. And that sounds kind of transactional, but really what you're doing is if you think about Nike building a run club app and building interaction, or even think of Peloton, they're building a community and you're interacting and buying stuff for them. You think of all these communities on the rise. Milwaukee, and I'll just show you a little bit what I've built over the past at Milwaukee, was, you have this entire community, that's everybody in the population. But then when you start building micro communities, it might be in Milwaukee. When I first started in Milwaukee 13 years ago, it was about new people to the city and new ideas. I built a community around that scaled from about 10 people starting this to about 200,000 subscribers that I interact with on a daily basis as we were starting to build this. But you can build affinity-based groups around anything, young professionals, you think of your neighborhood organizations. And then if you go even a step further, you get like your interest-based communities. But if you do these really well, you can build revenue streams from them. And I build these for Fortune 500 companies. I build these for small business, or not mostly small business, but mid-sized businesses. Sometimes I build them for nonprofit entities that want to build a community of patrons. But so about 10 years ago, West Wisconsin Avenue in downtown Milwaukee, if everybody here is familiar with the region, was kind of desolate. Every building was empty on the store around my road. We didn't have a symphony. We didn't have a new food hall. I got asked by the neighborhood association, the business improvement district, to build a community around with all the businesses and build programming where people can engage in this community. So I built a program called the Night Market. And now we have, every time we do it, about 40,000 people that come downtown to this area once where no one came, where the Grand Avenue Mall was empty. And we started building plans and theories of what the food hall could be, and started trying to lobby people to move their offices downtown to build, which was once the focal point of the city that went on dead times. And this kind of came back. And so we started building a lot of different programs and events, a lot of micro communities across all of Milwaukee. And when, out of the last 13 years, this is just a screenshot of people that have come to an event in Milwaukee for a community I have built in this region. And this is across the country, and this is across the world. So when you build strong communities and you build things that matter to people, and that could be very secular, that could be very open, like the Night Market was a very open community, anybody could come, or you could build a very niche community around, people that are for school empowerment, or whatever the thing may be, rock climbing, or whatever your passion might be. If your business is around fitness, it's building a fitness community, you could see that people will come to it and you need no money to advertise. And the future is going to be in building communities. If you think of the rise of cryptocurrency, the rise of NFTs, the rise of the metaverse and Web3, all these things are around how people start communities. And if you're not investing in a customer type based community, you'll probably be left behind of really growing to what it could be. So I started thinking about all these different things and started thinking about, why do people connect in the community? There's got to be patterns to this, right? And it started kind of hitting me that, like, these communities start by authenticity. They don't start by saying stuff like, I want to build an event and I want people to come. They build by, I'm really passionate about, in this case, small business. I want to build a bunch of other small business owners around me that are also going to think like me and are like me. And in that, when you start with that mindset, you can build a real authentic community. When you start with the other mindset, you don't. And really good communities actually have boundaries. They say you either are this or you're not in. And those are the best communities you're in. You say, like, again, I go back to the rise of the cryptocurrency. If you don't know cryptocurrency, you're not really in these communities, these online communities. If you're not really into this video game, you're not into these online communities. If you're not really a rock climber, I don't really want you in here in this community, because we're talking rock climbing. Now, you can get into those communities, you can provide access to those communities, but in this world, it's who's in and who's out, which makes a really strong community. Because people start to when you create really good communities, people start to have passion, and they actually have their own theory on who should be or what should be the rules, and there'll be self-governance. And if anybody's familiar with DAO, which is a decentralized organization, you'll see the rise of people wanting to set these boundaries. But good communities go deeper. They go really deep. They're not shallow. They're about longer conversations. They're about passion of what you're building. And good communities also have rituals. And even when you think about your own companies, I have like next week, I'm bringing my employees from across the country here in Milwaukee. Our rituals every quarter, we bring every single employee in for a ritual to come together and party for 2 days and hang out and spend time together, because spending time together, we know that that's where people will stay longer with us. It's a ritual we set. It's a community that's formed inside the company that makes people stay longer. We have actually, we've been around for a couple of years now, 13 years. We haven't lost anybody that's left to another company at all, unless we've let them go. So people don't leave our company because we treat them differently. And we over communicate in our communities. We over communicate. We tell people what we stand for. We're very loud about that, because people have to self-identify with their community. Now, take what I just said and put it into your own small business. Are you out there talking about it? Are you out there advocating? Are you out there connecting with other people that have the same passion with you? That's how communities form. That's how sales happen. That's where you find talent. That's where you find kind of your growth. And what I said before is, I got really interested in not just the community, but how people interact. And when I said about 50 hours to turn someone that you just met into a meaningful relationship, but it's actually 60 to 90 hours to turn them into a friend. And so I got really passionate about friendship. And this is where I'll talk about what I'm building right now. I'm building a tech startup called Like Minded. And it's just around the future of work and social isolation. So 61% of employees say they feel isolated, disconnected from their employee, and there's less opportunities to connect. There's people that are isolated, don't work as well. And we know if someone leaves your company, it costs about 50% of their salary to replace them, not to mention the knowledge loss. And so all this stuff started getting me to think about patterns of why people are friends. And so I started thinking, and I'll just kind of challenge everybody in the group here. If you think about your small social friend group, your close friends, there's probably someone in your social group that is the planner, someone that's always planning the events. You're going out, they're planning it. There's probably someone that's always late, and no matter what you do, they're always late. There's probably someone in your social group that's the comic relief. And so when I became obsessed with these patterns, I realized that there's a lot of patterns of friendship and why we are friends. Because it's not like dating where there are no patterns. People don't care who they date, actually. They'll date the complete opposite. Friends, you will not do that. You'll actually be very picky about friends, and actually your social friend group will change about 48% every 7 years. 48% every 7 years. So you can see how, and when people change cities and they change careers, they actually lose a lot of friends. Life state change is one of the biggest causes of loneliness. So my new theory is, or my new company is around solving social isolation and loneliness and connection. And so what I've developed is an assessment. So I bumped into, when I talked about micro interactions earlier, I bumped into a gentleman that created eHarmony. He created the science behind eHarmony, actually. And so dating, there's 1,000 dating apps out there. The connection rate is very low. The success rate is very low because we don't really care about, again, who we date, as far as like, are we compatible? But what you kind of find out is you can create an assessment around personality. Obviously, we've probably heard of DISC and Enneagram and all these, and some of the ones that are like Myers-Briggs, who is more pseudoscience than reality. But then you can actually start to find the most scientifically accepted assessment of personality is called Hexaco. And you can start to find patterns in why people connect in Hexaco, and then you can start tying that back together. So I've developed an assessment around personality, life stage, interests, and identity. And what we do is we build an archetype from that. And that archetype, then we can match with other people. So you think if you're in a company or you run an organization or you're a freshman at UWM, Milwaukee, if I have a population and I get everyone to take that assessment, I can match them with high predictability of relationships and friendships. And I'll show you a little bit what that looks like. So when someone takes my assessment, they get a little bit about their Hexaco traits. Are they an agreeable person? Are they very conscientious? Are they an extrovert or introvert? And this stuff is, are they honesty? They have a lot of humility. What's their neuroticism? What's their level of openness? This is actually my personal traits here. And so what you get from this is you start to see patterns also in society across the whole country. It's called geopsychology. And so like in the Midwest, a lot of us are very extroverted, but we're very low in openness, which makes sense because we're less risk or more risk averse here. We don't like to take risks. We don't have as much openness to new ideas. So you start to see patterns across the whole country. But then if you start looking, most friends actually, what they have in common is their honesty, their level of humility. Most friends have that trait in common. Most friends have a level of openness that they have in common. And so the way we build these archetypes is there's about 12 of them based on these Hexaco traits. People start to understand more about themselves and which one they are, and then we start matching them across that. So the company, again, is focused on how do we connect employees, how do we improve mental health, because we know that people with we have less friends than we ever before, and feeling lonely and isolated is like smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It's like a pack a week, pretty much. Sorry, not a day. And that is not having close friends is actually impacting society pretty highly. So we are focused on doing this for right now for employees. We are not B2C, we are B2B. But this is kind of the future of where we're going. So we're sparking new connections, that lead to a loss of people and a loss of knowledge. Looks a little bit like this. You can see different matches. So basically how it works is people take the assessment, they get an archetype, and then we make connections back. These are kind of just here's a screenshot. So when we introduce people and so I'm piloting a bunch of organizations right now, think of some chambers of commerce, think of things like that. They take the assessment, I match them. We give people their feathers. Their feathers are the most things that they would break the ice. And then, most of it is around psychology, that why they would meet and why they would connect. And then we give people communication on our information on how to connect with each other. Like if you meet Jeremy, here's what you should know about him when you talk to him. And so we've done this now. We've connected over 5,000 people, and 94% of people have said they're extremely likely to meet again. And so we've been building this connection, and we're still new. We just got actually named one of the top 10 startups to watch in Wisconsin by the Business Journal. So we're still new. I haven't raised any venture money for this yet. but we're really targeting on internships, D&I strategy, new hire onboarding, and corporate events. And yeah, I can kind of, there's, any other questions, or I can start talk more about the psychology of connection and stuff like that, because there's a lot of things you can do around, if you want to build better teams, is around releasing oxytocin over dopamine, and there's other types of things like that we can talk about. But I thought it'd be cool to kind of talk about community, talk about connection, and then look what we're building. And I tried to do that really fast because I knew I only had 10 minutes. So.
Well, you actually ran, that was great, a great presentation.
Did I run over?
Yeah,
Okay,
quite a bit. We actually got to get into our next guest, which
Okay.
is at 2:10, which is Serena. But Jeremy, that was fantastic. It was a great presentation. I love the whole idea of what you're doing, and I really admire what you have going on, and I hope that we can have you on. I think we need to have a whole episode with just you on the show. We got a lot to get into.
I do a whole hour presentation usually on connection and community, but I tried to, and I didn't obviously get it down 10 minutes. Sorry, my fault.
Oh, no, it's okay.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
Did
Well, thank you.
anybody have any, did you put any information in the chat?
I can do
Jeremy?
that
So-
right now.
Yeah, so then they can reach out to you with any questions, because you're definitely got some interesting stuff going on there.
Yeah, definitely. And before we get into our next guest, I just want to do a quick reminder about our small business shower. It's at theconnectshow.com, small business shower. Kim will put the link in the chat. And if anyone has not heard about it, we're giving resources to help small businesses thrive. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that after Serena. And I'll hand it off to you, Tracy.
Thanks. I was saying thank you to Jeremy, so I got to go find my paper. We have Serena Talbot. She's the owner and founder of the Mindset Transformation Company and is a transformational coach and clinical hypnotherapist. Oh yes, I remember hypnotherapist. Welcome, Serena. Welcome back.
Hi, thank you. I wanted to mention I'm in a group in Milwaukee called the Idea Collective who uses like-minded. So we took the assessment and used that, and it's really cool, and it's really fun to see who you're connected with, and I think that's really important work. So I'm going to get started. Yes, I'm from the Mindset Transformation Company. I help business owners to change behaviors and mindset and be able to take the actions they need to reach their goals. And I want to kind of continue off. I'm going to pull up the share screen, continue where Chris and David, we're talking, I'm going to hit present. I can't do two things at once. Okay. We're talking about it's so important to figure out why you're doing things and to set goals. And today I'm going to talk about how to have a kick-ass life. I have a program called Kick-Ass Life Program without regrets. And so I'm really talking about when we set goals, when we take actions, when we want to change behaviors, we're going straight into that. We're getting out of our comfort zone, right? We're going straight into discomfort. So what do you do with that? What do you do with the discomfort? What do you do with all the fears that come up and the imposter syndrome and the self-sabotage and all that stuff? So I want to share with you guys today 5 steps when you are dealing with that, when you're having situations that are stopping you. So when I'm working with, people to change behaviors, we get really excited and we set a goal and we say, I'm going to be different. And then we start being different. And we run into those. And I find the biggest thing that stops people is not being able to handle all the stuff that comes up when you change behaviors. We're creatures of habits. We have patterns, we have programs, we have all this stuff. And when we change it, part of our mind, just goes, what are you doing? So being able to face that and work through that is how you can live this life without regrets, right? Reach your goals. Years and years ago, I worked in hospice. And so, this idea of when you get to the end of your life, how is it? Did you do the things you're here to do? And in order to do that, you need to make decisions that are in alignment with your goals and your values and actually take action. You need to react, or you need to respond instead of react. And so what I'm sharing today is really for any area of your life where you're noticing patterns where you're reacting, right? We're reacting. Maybe we're getting upset. Maybe we're avoiding something. Maybe we're really frustrated. Maybe we're not showing up as the person that we want to be. So when we're reacting, it's unconscious, it's automatic, it's emotional, protective, it lacks perspective, right? It's black or white or all or nothing. And when we're responding, the process moving through these steps helps you do is to have a wise decision to take. It takes practice. It's not going to happen instantly, but it helps you take powerful actions to be objective and to be vision centered, right? You set your goals and you want to take actions in alignment with them. So it's going to help you be able to respond instead of react. And so what is discomfort? It's emotions and it's fears and it's feelings, right? And I love this quote from Brene Brown: leaders must either invest a reasonable amount of time attending to fears and feelings or squander an unreasonable amount of time trying to manage ineffective and unproductive behavior. So I think a lot of times when people want to work on mindset, we want to work on our confidence, we want to work on, being the best version of ourselves, we want to avoid the feelings, we want to make them go away. I want to get to the point where I'm not afraid anymore. I never feel like an imposter anymore. I'm never, frustrated and disappointed anymore, but that's not going to happen. If it was, I would be the first one to sign up. Feelings and fears are unavoidable. There's no way to get rid of them. And the thing to do, the process of the steps that I'm going to share, help you deal with it quickly and efficiently, right? If you have to deal with something uncomfortable, if you have to deal with something painful, in my opinion, let's get that done as quick as we possibly can so that we can get to the other side of it. So again, I'm going to share these steps. And I feel like, emotions are usually the last thing that anybody wants to talk about. So we got to understand that they're not going anywhere. And if you're reacting and showing up in a way you don't want to in your life, then you really need to deal with them. So these 5 steps I'm going to go into today. And this will help you deal with the discomfort and begin to master your emotions. So I want you to imagine an emotion is you're in a house and an emotion is showing up, right? A lot of times, so the first step is to notice it's at the door. Second step is to let it in. Third step is to listen to it and get curious. Like Dave was talking about, you don't want to be in fight, flight, or freeze, right? You don't want to be shut down. You want to be curious so that you can think. And then you take back control. That's step 4. You tell the truth, and then you decide how to proceed. And this is how you do discomfort, right? You might be showing up in different ways than you have before, raising your prices, taking actions, exercising, being vulnerable in relationship, whatever it is, you're going to be in this position. So the first step is notice it's at the door. So this is a big deal, because sometimes something's at the door and we're like, it's not there. I don't want to see it. Let's just have a sandwich. Let's run away. Let me clean my office. I don't want to deal with it, because you don't want it to be there. And sometimes we beat ourselves up and say, oh, if I was smarter, that wouldn't be there. If I hadn't done that stupid action, 2 years ago, this wouldn't be there. And I wish it wasn't here. And we can do all kinds of things to skip this part. This is the most powerful part. You can't do any of the rest of it without this. And the main thing to know as business owners is that anything coming to our door, there's nothing wrong with us for it being there. And most of the time, if something is showing up, it's because we're doing everything right. We are changing our behavior, taking different action, moving to that goal, like I said, raising our prices, showing up in a way that's different. So the emotions are supposed to be there. You're out of your comfort zone, which means you've moved to discomfort, which means you're in a fantastic place if you want to change. So it's okay that it's at the door. First step is to notice. So noticing is just pausing. Take the time, notice what's happening. Maybe I'm super frustrated. I'm angry. I'm really upset that something is happening. I'm really disappointed. I really didn't think, that should have happened. It's really not fair. And we quit trying to make it go away or wish it wasn't there or beating ourselves up. And we just notice something's happening. And life is fantastic because, if you don't notice the first time, it'll keep happening until you notice. You'll get another chance. And the second step is to let it in. And this, again, is why I quoted Brene Brown. We have to spend a reasonable amount of time tending to our fears and feelings, or they're just going to pound on the door louder. They're just going to try to break in. They're going to mess up our life, and we're going to spend an unreasonable amount of time dealing with the consequences of it. So this process, right? Everybody's like, oh gosh, if I let this in, it's going to overtake me and I'm going to be too emotional and I'm going to be, just a mess. And the irony is, if you don't do this, that's when you're actually reacting emotionally. That's when you're actually a mess because you haven't been dealing with stuff. So you let it in. And this is also very simple, but most of us were never taught how to do this. So we don't know. And it's just committing to spend that reasonable amount of time dealing with that discomfort, dealing with what's there. So scientifically, feeling an emotion takes 90 seconds, right? This process of the steps that I'm sharing with you might take 15 minutes, 20 minutes, a half hour, right? And as we practice it, it becomes quicker. We can do it faster. But how many times have we spent months or weeks or years avoiding just an uncomfortable feeling, a fear, a frustration, because we won't just let it in? So this is very simple. It's 3 words, let it in, but it's really huge. And it's really scary the first time you do it. I remember the first time, I let myself let emotions in instead of running away from them and stuffing them and shoving them and reacting. I was like, oh God. And it was simple. And it lasted about a minute and a half. And I was like, oh, that's not a big deal. But when we don't know that, when we don't know these steps and when we don't practice it and we don't know how to let things in and we don't learn this, then it ends up keeping us avoiding that discomfort and then avoiding our goals. So when we name an emotion or an experience, it doesn't give that emotion power, right? People are always afraid, like, oh, I'm just going to be so emotional in dealing with this. You're not. If you're like, I'm frustrated, I'm angry, I'm disappointed, I'm sad, it gives you more power. And it actually starts that process of relieving it so you can get back to the emotion that you do want, right? Which is the confidence and which is feeling like you're not an imposter, feeling like I belong here, I'm valuable, I'm enough, right? So the third step is listen to it. So imagine it knocked on the door, we let it in, now we're going to sit down and have a conversation. So this means you ask, you get curious, and you listen. What's the story? What does this want to tell me? What do I need to know? What is happening? Why is this here? We ask questions, just like you would if there was literally a person, that's really upset. I say like a kid, a kid comes and they're really, really upset. And you'd sit them down and you'd say, okay, what's going on? What's the story? And as you're listening to the story, you can begin to understand if it's true or not. And then you can move on to step 4, which is beginning to tell the truth. So I have 4 kids, so I use this analogy of kids. If a kid comes to you crying, it's gonna be one of 2 things. They really got hurt. Maybe they scraped their knee or, hurt their arm or something. Or they're coming to you crying because there's a monster under the bed and it's totally not real. Our levels of discomfort, right? The emotions that come up when we're out of our comfort zone are the same way. It's going to be a monster under the bed, or it's going to be something that really needs addressing. And when you're listening to the story, you can figure that out and then do this, which is tell the truth. If it's a monster under the bed, like I'm going to raise my prices and then no one's going to buy from me and I'm going to end up homeless and by myself, you're going to begin to tell yourself the truth. Remind yourself of those goals, remind yourself of the vision. And if it is something that really needs addressing, this is where you get the more empowering story. This is where you get the creative solutions. And you can sit in this space and ask, what's the solution? What do I need to know? What action is going to help me move forward? And Chris said, when you're in alignment with your goals, it'll just come to you. It's amazing. I sit down and do this with clients all the time, and there's no formula. It's a different answer for everybody and everybody's situation, each person. But when you do this process, you get the answers you need. You move into the place where you can think, where you can come up with solutions. So the only caveat here is most people just want to do this immediately. They're like, I'm angry. What's the truth? What do I need to do? And you're again trying to get rid of it and make it go away. But you have to listen first. So we can't just go to this step. We've got to listen first. Then this is where we can actually have accurate solutions that really, really work. And the 5th step is to make that wise decision, take action on it. And to me, it's, getting behind the wheel and being the one in the driver's seat, because when we don't address those feelings and they're pounding on the door and we're not letting them in and we're fighting them, they're actually driving, right? We're reacting and we're behaving in ways that aren't in alignment, aren't out of that wise space. So this is how you get back in the driver's seat when you experience discomfort or just walking in new and different ways of behaving and showing up and talking around different people, right? This is how you get back to reminding yourself the truth of who you are and where you're going and who you want to be and all of those things. So I don't know. And in the wise decision, we can ask, what's the best course of action? And then you're going to find out in this moment what action you need to do. If it's wait, you might need to get support. You might need to learn more. You might need to set a boundary. But this process is going to get you to that space of making that wise decision and showing up the way that you want and responding. And then you can learn more at serenatalbot.com. So I wanted to ask, and I'll stop sharing. I wanted to ask if I don't have time to go through it, do I? Because I'm at time. Is that right? For questions?
I'm muted. Well, it's
No, that's
2:30, but does anybody have any questions? Or did you have something else you wanted to do yet?
No.
Okay. I don't know. I'm not seeing anybody's hands going up. I'm not seeing anything going in the chat. So you might have just gave us all the answers that they needed. They don't have any questions.
Well, that works if we're at time. And then, yeah, you can connect with me at my website. And if anyone is interested in the steps, you can let me know.
Awesome. Thank you, Serena.
Yeah, thank you so much. This goes by fast. It's hard.
Yeah,
Right?
It's fast. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's
The
awesome. Thank
time
you so
flies
much.
by. The
But,
time
but
flies
everybody
by.
gives everybody a little insight into a little bit about them, and they can always reach out to you, and you don't know where it's gonna go. So it's really nice.
Mhm. Well, our next guest, if I can turn up the volume here, here we go. Our next guest is Eleanor Beaton, and Eleanor is the founder of Safi Media, an education and coaching company for women entrepreneurs. And they're committed to advancing global gender equity, one woman-owned business at a time. Eleanor, it is so great to have you here today.
It's so awesome to be here today. I loved that presentation from Cynthia beforehand, Serena, sorry, beforehand. That was awesome. And it's a hard act to follow. I'm nervous,
Oh, no.
Oh, you're gonna do fine.
but I know how to manage my emotions
Okay, good.
because I was paying attention. So here we go.
All
Very
right.
good.
So the 10 minutes does go by quick, but let's
It's 20 minutes, John. It's 20 minutes.
Yeah, 10 and 10. Okay, awesome. Do you want me to kick it off?
Go, let her rip.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. Hello, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here. So I put together a training that really feeds into the growth section. So the growth section of sort of topic areas. So that's what we're going to talk about here today. I'm going to share my screen. Hang on one second. Okay. Slideshow. Play from start. Okay, great. So this 10-minute practical teaching is all about how you can scale faster by delivering precise results. And to be clear, this training is going to actually be most applicable to those of you who are working inside service-based businesses. And service-based businesses can notoriously be easy to start. So many of us start them because we have this wonderful skill set or vocation or calling, and we love to do the work that we do. One of the big challenges, of course, is that sometimes that amazing work can become a prison. I don't know if you're like me. I remember when I was growing my service-based business, it really started because my desire to find a better way was because I was spending like 30 hours a week with we're doing client work and had a really hard time kind of getting through that. And so this is the 10-minute training I wish I'd had then, and I really hope that it's useful to you. I've had the privilege of being on the Connect show and working with Jon and Tracy in the past, but I didn't want to assume that are familiar with me or my work. So let me share a little bit about me, and that is going to help you. So I've won numerous business awards in the past for sort of business and communication. So my specialty and our company's specialty is really around strategic growth and messaging and positioning and that kind of thing. I'm the former chair of a program called the Visiting Women's Executive Exchange Program at the Yale School of Management. And in my work with women entrepreneurs in particular, I've had the opportunity to advise people like Canada's Deputy Prime Minister, different VC funds, billion-dollar business leaders on topics including gender equity, marketing, messaging, and growth. So a little bit about me personally, and I'm the founder of a company called Safi Media. Safi stands for Self-Actualized Female Innovators, but the content on today's training will be relevant to people of all genders, FYI. And we're really on a mission to double the number of female founders who sustainably scale past $1 million in annual revenue by 2030. That means that we need to reach influence through training, inspiration, education, storytelling about an additional 200,000 women entrepreneurs. And we want them to build businesses that have CIA, cash, influence, and autonomy. So that's a little bit about myself and my colleagues. I don't do this alone. I have the support of a tremendous team of men and women, and we work together to accomplish this mission. So today's training is for you if you run a service-based business and you're trading dollars for hours. And therefore you have maybe hit an income ceiling or a plateau. And maybe you can relate to the story that I was telling before, where you're doing a lot of one-on-one client work. This work, it started out really exciting, but it can become complex. It can become hard to scale. Sometimes it's hard, maybe you want to clone yourself, but you're a brilliant superstar unicorn and you find you can't actually clone yourself. That's what this training is all about. So in 10 minutes, you'll discover a very simple tool that you can use to open up the options to scale your service business. And you can do this. This tool is going to help you whether you've thought about maybe packaging up what you know into products like online courses or group programs, or you're actually going to scale the service delivery. So we do both. So we have online courses, group programs so I was able to take what I did on a one-on-one basis and do it that way. But we also do it through scaled service delivery, which is different. It's where you're bringing in team members, you're hiring team members to do what you do in a scaled way, right? So that's the tool that I'm going to share today is going to help you do this. And it's going to help you do this without compromising the quality of what you do. That was always a tremendous concern for me. And I'm sure you can relate to this. You have this connection with your clients and ensuring that they are satisfied, that you are delivering the results that you promised you would deliver is so critical to you. This is especially important in service-based businesses like consulting and that kind of thing, because the reality is your results and the results you're able to deliver and the peace of mind and joy with which you're able to deliver them are in direct proportion, and they're directly connected not just to what you do, but who you work with, right? And so if it doesn't go well, that can have a big impact on the overall growth of your company. So you don't want to compromise quality. And the other thing you don't want to do is sort of cannibalize the existing offerings that you have. So for instance, if you are doing one-on-one life coaching, let's say, how do you scale that without sort of messing up this great one-on-one coaching offer that you have? So all of these things will help you. And I hope that you can see yourself in these comments. So just kind of check out, I'd love to check in the comments. If you run a service-based business, can you just put "that's me" in the comments, just so I can get a sense if hopefully this training is relevant to you. I really hoped it would be, but I want to make sure it is. So if you run a service-based business, go ahead and put "that's me" in the comments so that I can see. All right. So the tool that we're talking about is, okay, awesome. John, Debbie, Gail, fantastic. Okay, thank you so much. Tracy, Kim, Karen. Okay, fantastic. Awesome. Okay, good. So we know that this is going to be relevant to some of you at least. So I want to take a moment. The tool is actually the ability to pinpoint, decide, choose, and embrace a precise result. So a lot of times when we think about a tool, we might think about like, a ruler, or we might think about Slack, like a communication tool. When we think about scaling our businesses, we're often really quick to go to, okay, what's the product going to be? Is it going to be an online course, a group offering? Am I going to hire other people that do what I do? And all of those are fantastic options. But the tool that opens up every single one of those things as a possibility to you and to your business is a precise result. So let me give you an example. I was doing some sort of coaching and consulting work with a group of female founders recently. And one of those female founders was she was like a leadership coach, essentially. And I was asking her what she did inside her business. And she said, I work with women to help them amplify their voice. Amplify their voice. Now, this is one of those results that on the one hand is amazing, and it's legit, but is amplifying your voice a precise result, right? How do you help people amplify their voice? Is it a precise result? How would you know if you were effective or successful? And the reason that this becomes an issue when you're trying to scale a service-based business is because once you go beyond you, so a lot of times in a one-on-one business, people are hiring you for you. So for instance, Tracy Van, Karen, Kim, all of us initially, when we had these one-on-one businesses, we built up this personal brand. People had trust in us and they trusted us and they formed a relationship with us and they hired us. As you start to scale, you don't have that ability to course correct in the middle of an offer necessarily. You don't have that ability as the founder to go and pull out all the stops to make sure that they got that result. You have to be a lot more precise in what you're offering. And what this helps them do is actually visualize and see what you're going to do for them, which makes both the delivery smoother and the sales process easier. So when you have a precise result, I talked about, amplifying your voice. And this is very common in leadership coaching. We hear about this a lot. And it's also, for instance, why so many leadership coaches struggle to sell scaled programs, because there's no precise result. People are like, I'm not sure what I'm going to get by amplifying my voice. What does that actually mean? So in this case, we were able to backtrack using the process I'm going to lay out here and actually articulate a very precise result. And the precise result that she articulated was she actually helps them secure and land high visibility projects. And when you get a high visibility project, it's the gateway to big time promotions, raises, salary increases, all of that. So you can see amplify your voice sounds cool, but I don't know what it is. Secure high visibility assignments, very precise. Okay, so that's what we're talking about here. And if she had that precise result, now she can say exactly the steps required to get it, exactly what it's going to do. They can tell, did they get that result or not? And it's a lot easier to sell programming around that. It's also a lot easier to scale that through service delivery. So let's move on, and I'm happy to open it up to any questions. So step one, how do you start doing this? When I was selling leadership coaching as an example, I had no idea how I was going to deliver a precise result. It was all about making people better leaders. So step one is to identify your top MVBs from the last 24 months. This is a really powerful exercise. I would encourage every service-based business to do. We still do it regularly. Literally what you do is you sit down, you can go through your software, you can go through your calendar. What I did when I first did this exercise is I opened up my calendar, I looked at my appointments, and I listed every single name who'd done business with me in the last 24 months. I put how much they bought from me, and I also listed what they came to me for. So that's step number one. Who are your total buyers? And then you calculate who have been my top 10 most valuable buyers in the last 24 months. Okay. These are what we would call MVBs, most valuable buyers. Who are they? What I found is that there were a few buyers who contributed the lion's share of our company's income. All right. Step two. Of those 10 super valuable buyers, most valuable buyers, analyze the work, think about the work that you did with them in detail and determine the precise problem that they had and the specific solution you prescribed. I say described, you prescribed. So for instance, I was talking once to a real estate person, and she was saying, well, it's tenants. And I was like, tenants, say more. And when she did this exercise, she realized, no, it wasn't tenants. The MVBs were business owners. The specific problem was they had outgrown their current location. And the solution was she helped them secure their expansion location. Right? So this is so much more practical and precise than I help people relocate. I just kind of help anyone relocate and negotiate their leases better. Like it was just, that was hard to identify, right? It wasn't precise. So this is step two, determine the precise problem that they had, not generally as your ideal client avatar, but very specifically. Okay. And then step three, you build a precise solution around that. So the example we talked about before, not just general leadership improvements, but no, this is career advancement through a high visibility project. And the key is that when I talk about developing a solution, you're going to do that through assets. There are two categories of assets: external assets. So that could be a course, a program, the packaging around that, the positioning around that, the messaging, the go-to-market strategy. But just as important are the internal assets, the customer journey. What is the complete interaction that your customer has with you to deliver that result? How can you codify, organize, systematize that, put it into some systems that other people can do? What are the artifacts that you need? Your onboarding emails, your update emails, all of that. How can you turn those into artifacts that you can reuse? And then how can you take that precise result and turn it into a train the trainer, which is what we do, so that your team members can deliver what you do. Okay, so when we talk about precise results, you start to open up tremendous opportunities for yourself to create assets. And an example of precise result in action, a one-on-one leadership coaching versus get promoted with high visibility projects. So that's what I got for you. Totally happy to open up to questions. I know it was one precise tool, but there's a lot of nuances there. If you want more information on how to build a business that's sort of driven by assets rather than driven by your hustle, it really starts with your business model itself and being wise about how you set that up. So you can get a white paper on setting up scalable business business models at sevenfigureecosystem.com. This is my email address, eleanorceo@eleanorbeaton.com. Thank you. Right on time, I think, maybe a few minutes over, but thank you so much for your time and attention, and happy to answer any questions that people may have around this.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I love your presentations. Your last presentation, I think I wrote the $10,000 mindset
Yes.
on everything.
Yeah.
Because I was, and I still think of it. When I'm doing my weekly or monthly plan, I'm like, what am I going to do this week or this month? I better do my $10,000 thing. And it's really changed my approach to how I do a lot of things. So I love what you do.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it's huge. And I would say that going through, for instance, that MVB exercise, like really studying who these lucrative buyers are and starting to think about how can I deliver a precise result to them. I think that's a $10,000 per hour task. I mean, this is the stuff that really, I think, can help us work on important projects that create capacity for growth.
Yeah, anything that's going on in your business that is being highly sought after by you and you're doing over and over again, try to figure out a way. Yeah.
I know. But I also think, I don't know if you guys can relate to this, I also think you need someone, with like Serena's skill set to kind of help you through it. Cause I've also found it's not just the creation of it's not just the doing of it. It's also the mindset. I think there's a big payoff in being indispensable for us. You know what I mean? There can be in this service, like you are seeing that impact of your work right away. You're indispensable. You're a problem solver. You're valued. I always found making that switch to creating the structure, you don't get that instant feedback. That's a bit of a trip, but that's a whole other presentation for another day. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on, Eleanor.
Really appreciate it. And then I think we have a little quick announcement from Tracy.
I think that everybody should put their contact information in the chat. We've had people coming and going. So the people that came in later aren't seeing the stuff that was put in earlier in the chat. So if have been here a while, please put your information back in the chat, and if you just got here, put your information in the chat. And we wanted to remind everybody about our announcement on business showers that we're doing now. We're having a business shower 3 times a year. And if you go to the connectshow.com website under business showers, there's one form on the left that lets you enter into win the business shower. And there's one form on the right that allows you to give a resource that you provide as a small business owner to the person who would win the business shower. So there's a way to give and a way to receive in that whole package of business shower stuff. And I'm pretty excited about the business shower idea. We're going to do it 3 times a year. So they're going to keep getting better and better and better. So I encourage you try to win and to try to help out another business owner. And I think we're moving on to our next guest now.
We are.
Should I announce her?
Yeah, it's all you.
Okay. Our next guest is Precious Williams. Precious is a 13-time elevator pitch champion and has successfully appeared on Shark Tank, CNN, Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Black Enterprise Magazine. She has since watched her clients gain national and international media attention, secure corporate training contracts, and launched their next Beautiful Now. That's what I have written there. I think I killed that a little bit. You'll have to fix it for me.
So,
Welcome, Precious.
oh, thank you for having me. Ladies, it's Valentine's Day, and you finally met the man of your dreams. You know what time it is. It's time to find some sexy lingerie to set the mood off nicely. But you weigh over 200 pounds. What's a big girl in the city supposed to do? Well, if you're anything like me, then you went to Victoria's Secret and you found out that they don't even make a bra in your size. So then you went to Ashley Stewart and Lane Bryant and you didn't really like the selection. Finally, as a last resort, you went to Macy's, where your choices were black, beige, and white. Again, what's a big girl supposed to do? Well, that's why I created Curvy Girls Lingerie. At Curvy Girls Lingerie, we're the ultimate shopping experience for full-figure divas and plus-size fashionistas. Now, I know what you're thinking, but let me be clear. There are over 40 million women size 14 or larger in the United States just like me, and we all want pretty underwear. And in our first 6 months, we crossed 6 figures with our innovative website, www.curvygirlslingerie.com, with a Z and not an S, because we like to keep it what? Funky and fresh. And then we created our own direct home party sales model, which let women pay us to introduce our lingerie to their network. And then we had the audacity to go on a nationwide tour. Not bad for a woman who started at Curvy Girls Lingerie when I was 327 pounds. And I was told I was too fat, too black, and didn't have an Ivy League degree. Well, I could have listened to the naysayers and all the people who told me and other business owners that it would never happen. But Sharks, I'm pitching in front of you today, showing you why they call me the female MacGyver of business. My name is Precious Williams, and the name of my company is Curvy Girls Lingerie. Thank you. So everyone, that was part of my award-winning pitch that got me on Shark Tank Season 8 in 2016. Hi, I'm Precious Williams, proud founder and CEO of Perfect Pitches by Precious. And today I want to talk about creating a pitch that pays and slays. And why is that important for small business owners, for speakers, and for consultants? It's because without a pitch, you ain't really saying much. And you really want to stand out in a crowded marketplace. I'm doing this right. You want to stand out in a crowded marketplace. And because I'm a 13-time national elevator pitch champion who took pitching from just getting on national television and winning $500,000, winning 13 out of 14 pitch competitions, turning around and becoming a corporate trainer for LinkedIn, Google, Microsoft, Federal Reserve Bank, writing 3 #1 best-selling books, and then turning around and really doing it on an international level. I am Precious Williams, the killer pitch master, and I will help you slay all competition. And so how did all of that happen, and how do I get my clients to do what it is that they need to do? So when it comes to pitching, what is a pitch and why is it important? Well, here's a definition that you can find in a dictionary, but let me give you a little something more to think about. Think about someone in your family that cooks really well and it's the holidays. So when you think about a pitch, the food is smelling good, you're talking to your family and friends, everybody's feeling good about themselves. You smell that food, you're like, dinner's about to be served. So you start putting things on your plate. You start putting everything on your plate. You want this, that, and the other. You all say grace. Now I want you to stare and look at that plate. What would be on that plate? Every type of food you would want for that first plate. But I also want you to look at that plate and realize that's your business. That's your business, your books, your brand, your product, your services, your relationships, your finances, your customers. All of that is on the plate. After you said grace, that first fork is your pitch. And a pitch is a short, brief way of introducing yourself to an interested party to get closer and closer to the sale. So when you think about the plate, what most people do with a pitch is throw everything about themselves into a pitch. So if you're at a networking event and everybody's giving you up, you don't need all of that. Remember, that first fork is a juicy morsel, a taste of more to come. What you want to do with a pitch is entice. You're enticed by throwing everything you do in front of everyone. And in fact, no one's entitled to all of that when they first meet you, or they're inquiring about your brand. So if you're going to entice them, what are you going to entice them with? Not everything. The things that are most important to them, the things that are going to make a difference in their life. What problem or challenge do they have? So before you delight them with how great you are, what is really their problem? And so that's what I want you to think about when it comes to pitching. I didn't become a 13-time national champion beating out Harvard, Yale, Stanford, and Columbia, cool tech companies and international companies, but just given the standard, I had to really focus on what do investors want to hear? What do people at networking events need to hear? They need to hear that there's something about me that's different, and that when people said it couldn't be done, we did it. And so the components of a pitch, we all know it's who you are, what you do, who you serve, and you want to make sure that they know that, but you don't have to put it in that order. These are the things that you want to highlight, but it doesn't have to be in this order. You want to make sure that they know you're different. You need to be on your Kanye. And yes, some of y'all may not like Kanye, but Kanye is not a rapper. He's a rapper, creative director, designer, all these things, because he comes to the table with so much creativity. And I want you to show people why you are really different. And you also want to have a powerful call to action. We already know that. But for those of you who don't know what really takes a pitch to the next level, let me show you. What are you selling, to whom, and why? So as you're looking at this, you'll see vision, target market, now and in the future, challenge, the problem, your solution, your secret sauce, and your call to action. In the midst of all of this, let me tell you what's the most important. You need to focus on the challenge or the problem that your target market has. When you heard me do part of my Shark Tank pitch, you heard me talk about being 327 pounds and not being able to find sexy, stylish, and fashion-forward lingerie in my size. What y'all didn't hear is that I was dating a very famous Hollywood actor. What you didn't hear is that when you heard 40 million women, I wanted to show how big the market is. And if no one's serving them, that's money just on the table. And we need to take advantage, because I was 327 pounds and I wasn't always that size. And I wanted to show that we mattered. We had the money to buy. But no one had created it and wanted women to wear muumuus. I don't know about you, but I'd like to keep it cute. So I wanted to create something. And when people told me no one would ever buy from a Black woman, not knowing that I'm a former attorney in the great state of New York, an award-winning attorney, a speaker since I was 16 years old. I just turned 43 on Saturday. So I've been in places that people could never believe. I've been in movies and documentaries, CNN, Forbes, all of that. I've been in a lot of things because I dare to do the impossible and show people why. When your target market has a problem, it's your job to educate them and let them know that you hear them before you offer a solution. Another thing, we all think we know what our target market is. Well, I'm here to show you that who you think it is, if they're not really working with you, they're not your target market, and your message might go over somewhere else that you haven't even thought of. And as a killer pitch master, I'll show you how. I started Perfect Pitches by Precious to show people how to slay all competition, big or small. And I did it in my own life. I do train at LinkedIn, Google, and Microsoft, Federal Reserve Bank, Intuit, QuickBooks, Yelp, and these other places. My clients, 7 of them have appeared on Shark Tank. Several more have had #1 best-selling books. Several more are getting corporate training contracts and paid speaking engagements. So if you want to be book busy and paid, check us out at perfectpitchesbyprecious.com. Finally, your secret sauce. You got to give them a little taste of why are you different and why does that difference matter? The queen before me talked about what is that? What's the thing that you've been able to do for others that most people can't do? What can't they do? And since I'm the killer pitch master, I specialize in all forms of pitching. And then what is your call to action? What do you want them to do immediately after they hear you? For the sharks, I wanted them to invest. For people who are hearing me on stage, I spoke in front of 10,000 in DC at the Professional Photographers of America conference. They bought everything I had. But that's not because I'm new to this, I'm true to this. And my genius is to help you unlock yours. So if you're not baiting, attracting, and closing with ease, if you're not turning ideal prospects into repeat clients, you need to check us out at perfectpitchesbyprecious.com. Finally, the question that needs to be asked all the time: why should they choose you? Why should they invest in you? Why should they select you for speaking engagements? Why should they buy from you? Why should they refer you? These are things you need. You need to be the only choice that matters to your audience. And as a professional speaker, I don't compete with Tony Robbins, Mel Robbins, Lisa Nichols, Les Brown. I don't compete with them because I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm the killer pitch master, which means I created a niche and I dominate with my pitch. So what are you putting out on social media? Those are pitches. What are you saying in people's inboxes to get them to notice you or to buy from you? Those are pitches. And once you understand that a pitch, when you add strategy, cunning, and precision to your pitch, there's no one you cannot get to. A long time ago, I came from the inner city of St. Louis, Missouri, to get my degree in English, to get my law degree, and to turn around and become a successful entrepreneur. And it didn't happen the easy way, but I learned a lot of steps along the way. And I want to show you why you are the only choice that matters, and making sure that every time you open your mouth, money should be coming to you. And so if you want to go on that journey with me, let's talk more about all forms of pitching: elevator, media, investor, speaker, sales, and interview. You can knock out everyone. You could slay all competition, and you can with the perfect pitch. And so here's a free resource for you all. If you want to see where you are in your pitching journey, please go to pitchingforprofit.com. This is a short 6-question quiz that'll show you where you are in your pitching journey and how to take it to the next level. It's free, 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 free. You get a free customized report that algorithms will do their thing and show you where you need to improve. If you sound like everybody else, you get treated like everybody else. And I know none of y'all are average, random, and ordinary. None of y'all are. So go get that free customized report. I am also the author of 3 #1 best-selling books: Bad Bitches and Power Pitches for Women Entrepreneurs and Speakers Only, The Workbook, and Pitching for Profit, the Bad Bitches Playbook to Convert Conversations into Currency. Why is this important? Because 2 of my books have been reviewed by Forbes magazine. 2 of them have had billboards in Times Square. I don't know if y'all can tell, I'm Black on both sides. There's nothing ambiguous about me. I don't have a Brazilian butt lift. I don't have 6-pack abs. And yet I'm the GOAT at what I do. So if you think you have to look, sound, and act like everybody else, you don't. I want to show you how to stand out and be counted and be the only choice that matters. So if you want to be booked, busy, and paid, if you want to bait, attract, and close with ease, you need to check out www.perfectpitchesbyprecious.com. I am Precious Williams, proud founder and CEO of Perfect Pitches by Precious. And if you're a speaker, I do offer speaker training. And I've been a professional speaker for 27 years, since I was 16 years old. I turned 43 on Saturday. And I am booked, busy, and paid. And when I tell you there's a science to getting paid speaking engagements around the world, you can get paid for virtual training, you can get paid live. But I want to show you how to take that to the next level. So every time you speak, you have 3 or 4 paid speaking engagements when you get off that stage. And it's a science to it. And I've cracked the code. So if you want to learn more about that, you can go to this particular site and find out more. And again, this is my contact information. On Instagram, I'm at Perfect Pitches P. On Facebook, at Perfect Pitch P. On Twitter, at Perfect Pitch P. On LinkedIn, I am Precious L. Williams, killer pitch master. And my email address is precious@perfectpitchesbyprecious.com. You can check out my YouTube channel, Perfect Pitches by Precious. Do you have any questions? I'm not sure if I'm in my time, but I want to make sure. Okay, almost.
You're perfect. That was lots of energy. Love the energy. This is great.
And does anyone
Yes.
have any questions? Oh, thank you. Happy birthday. Thank you. And I'm going to put my contact information again in the comments so you all can get at me in any way. But if you have any questions about pitching, all forms of pitching is great. There are some people who specialize in media or investor or elevator. I'm a master in them all. And so you can check me out on LinkedIn, check out my almost 200 testimonials, and working with the biggest companies in the world to individual speakers and entrepreneurs. And I really want to see you all succeed, especially in a pandemic and economic downturn and social unrest.
I don't know that I caught where you're from.
I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, but I live in Brooklyn,
Missouri.
New York. Yeah, I'm the first and
Nice.
only person in my family with a college degree.
Nice. Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions, Precious?
Oh, that's
Not
sad.
seeing any. We just loved your energy. I think we're just
I
all taken
know.
back by all the energy.
You know, that's
Right.
the first thing people say about me. I mean, and I think that's also another reason why I'm hired, because I'm not going to come and bore you. I remember when I was an attorney. Yeah, that's not my personality. And I think that's another reason why the Sharks were so shocked. Like, I didn't go in afraid. I said I'm a 13-time champion. It's not a question y'all can't ask me that I don't know. And that's why you need someone who's been on both sides, someone who's pitched and gotten money, and then someone who's been on the other side judging to show what a real great pitch sounds like. So if you're struggling with how to sell to your prospects, how to get them interested, what should be in your social media posts, how to be the go-to expert, how to be the only speaker that they need for a particular topic, I'm gonna show you how.
Well, thank you,
That
Precious,
is-
for coming on today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and before we start with Mike, I just wanted to give a quick reminder about our small business shower that we have coming up. And what we can do with the small business shower is we're going to be helping a small business grow and thrive by giving them the tools they need and the resources. And if you would like to, if you're a small business and you'd like to apply to be a recipient of the small business shower, or if you are a company that could contribute to the cause, we'd sure appreciate it. The link is in the chat. And with that, I am going to read the next slide, which is welcome Mike Barrett. Mike has more than 20 years of experience in advertising and marketing and the ability to understand and connect with an audience, and his ability to learn to connect with the audience is what he learned to do best. So he made it his career. Mike, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to this conversation. I know our last conversation was fantastic, and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, guys. Hello, everyone. And I am just down the road from, am I unmuted? Okay, good. I'm just down the road from you guys in the state of Rhode Island. I'd like to first point out the number of similarities between Miss Precious and myself. Precious, this is for you. I'm going to read you a post, an elevator pitch that I wrote 8 months ago, just as a concept for a client. If you're a father-to-be, I have bad news for you. You're going to get fat. You're going to gain weight, but don't panic. It's just sympathy weight. Men gain sympathy weight for their pregnant partner, an average of 15 pounds. That's like carrying around 3 bags of flour all day, but it's in the name of fatherhood. Unfortunately, your clothing does not share in this sympathy. Nothing fits anymore. And this new 9-month wardrobe is too expensive, and no, sweatpants in the office is not acceptable. How can your wardrobe handle this sympathy stress to the seams? Introducing Manternity, a year-round fashion line made with the flexibility to grow with you when your baby weight comes on around month 3 and go right back to your normal size after month 9. Our on-trend line of men's clothing is designed with flex in the seams and waist to ensure that when the stork is on its way, you don't have to spend the college money to stay in a style that fits. You feel for her, we feel for you. Manternity, the clothes that grow with you. What do you think? How did I do?
Loved it.
I'm listening to your pitch, and I'm just thinking to myself, oh my God, she's gonna get a kick out of this. Well, everyone, thanks for having me. And Precious, that was unbelievable hearing what you talk about and the dovetail of how we see the world. you'll see it momentarily. I show businesses how to talk about themselves to their audience with the simple insight that 100% of what we do for our businesses, only 5% of that matters to our audience. And it's like finding a needle in a haystack to figure out the 5% that's going to connect with them. And once you do, you have to bring them through your story in the right order. And Precious spoke to the importance of this order. People have a way of thinking about things and questions that they would ask, almost like a frequently asked questions page. Starts with the most general and goes to the most specific. So a lot of that becomes clouded by our business and everything that we're worried about. So to put it to the test, a simple example, think of Stephen King think of Precious writing her 10th best-selling book, and she's put 400 pages of heart and soul into it. Finding the 3 paragraphs to go on the inside flap becomes much harder for her because she knows everything. She knows every word on every page, its intent, that if she's writing fiction, she knows the characters, the scenes, and getting out of that what you need to connect, that 5% becomes really challenging. So my job is to show businesses their audience's perspective of what they're doing and what they sound like and look like to the outside world, and help them clarify it based on a few simple principles. First, there's no business without show business, meaning every single one of us is playing a role when we're in business. We have scripts, we have roles, characters, sets, we have everything, directors, producers. We don't think that way outside of the business world. The business world uses words like synergize, ideate, KPI is my favorite. And if I went out to coffee, Tracy and I went out to coffee, and I said, oh, Tracy, I got to run. Great talking to you, but I got to pick up my son. Hey, what are your KPIs this weekend? I'd sound like a lunatic. The truth is, we don't think, the audience does not think like a business does. We speak our own language. And cutting through all of that and communicating to human beings is what's important. A resume, the person reading resumes to hire for a job spends an average of 5 to 7 seconds per resume, which means all they see is the top sentence, maybe a little bit more. But the important thing to realize is they're not running that through a business filter. They are reading words from one human being, and if it catches their attention, if it's intriguing to them, they read on. Then the business filter kicks in. But if they're not intrigued and go, meh, they just put you in the other pile. And that's how that works. That's how connection works in the human mind. Oh, yeah, that is interesting. That's the first impulse that we need to look for when we're talking to our audience. And how we connect with them has nothing to do with that language we've created, and terms like SaaS and full stack and all of these things don't mean anything to a human when they're reading the words. The second thing to realize is an audience remembers, and this is what Precious really drives home, an audience remembers first, best, or different. One of those 3 things. You have to be one of those 3 things to stand out in their mind. First and best, tough to come by, admittedly. But different, we all have the opportunity to do. Now, if we think about different in terms of our business, let's say we run a car wash, I run a car wash, that doesn't mean I have to be dancing on the corner dressed as a clown with a car wash sign. What it means is my car wash and the message I'm putting out there, how I talk about myself, needs to be seen differently as the other car washes. If I'm looking for a PR firm and I type PR firm into Google, I get 50 results in under 1/10 of a second. And all I have to do is move the mouse back and forth between the result and the back button. I have all the control. I click on the first 3 results, and the first thing I see is we're a PR firm on all 3 of them. Effectively, they all look the same, clearly, but they're all hitting my bottom level of expectations because that's what I put in the Google search bar. But what if the 4th one says, you get writer's block writing about your own business, we'll find the words to put your news out there the right way. That one looks completely different, and here's why. That PR firm chose to speak to me about the challenge I was having when I put PR firm into the search bar in Google. I can't write about my own business. Think about writing about yourself. It's really hard to do in flowing terms. So those are things that have to be taken into consideration, is how do you stand out to your audience at the simplest engagement, a Google search even, or in a networking event or in your sales pitch, has to do with that one way that you talk about what you do. And having one way to talk about what you do forms consistency in your message. You speak to the right audience, and it makes it far more efficient. If you know what to say, who to say it to, you know where to put it in that one way. That's what we're all striving for. And it all starts with the idea of how you speak to your audience on their terms. So imagine the idea of your business starting out. You have a vision for what you want to do. And maybe you create a mission statement even to get behind it. What I believe, you have a brand essence, what you stand for. You have your strategy or your core values, and it goes all the way down to your products and services. That is something that you just built internally, asking the question, what problem do I solve for my customer? But you're building it internally and thinking about it internally once you've decided on that solution. The challenge has nothing to do with the problem, how you solve the problem. It's whether they perceive your solution. Your audience needs to understand what the hell you're talking about, and they need to attach to it. So you could have the best service in the world, but if you're leading with that, they're not ready for it yet. There comes a certain order of information. So what I've developed is simply based on a ride up an elevator. And Precious, you'll love this, the elevator pitch. I'm taking that and giving it meaning around a conversation that two human beings would have on an elevator. And here's the one-sided angle of that. So what do you do? Oh, tell me more about that. So how do you help them? Well, how does that work? What services do you provide? What are the benefits from that? Do you have proof to back it up? Sure, I'll take your card. Sounds like a normal conversation, and that's how human beings would elicit information. If I start talking about myself and what I do, if I come out of the gates on the first floor and I say, I'm a marketing consultant, no matter what comes out of my mouth next, all of you are going to remember Mike and marketing consultant, because that's how the human mind works. We're not going to hold on to all the other stuff. At that point, I may as well say, what do you do? The other side that you can run into problems is if you're going too fast for your audience. And let's compare this to like reading to a bunch of 5-year-olds on a reading rug at the library. If you get there and open up Goodnight Moon and don't even look at the 10 kids sitting in front of you and just start reading Goodnight Moon, good night cow jumping over the moon, good night dish that ran away with the spoon, maybe glance at them, keep going, you don't have your audience at all. You're cruising right along. And that happens a lot when people try to say everything they do from beginning to end on that first floor. But if you're reading a story to 5-year-olds, you're turning that book around. You're making sure they're following along and that they understand a page before you go on to the next one. You're making sure they have the information to go, okay, what happens next? What happens next? What happens next? And that's exactly how talking about your business and what you do should work. Somebody says to me, so what do you do? I say, I show businesses how to talk about themselves. My goal is to get you to say, tell me more, or that's intriguing. It's like I haven't given you enough information. And when you say, tell me more, I explain that businesses think 100% about themselves, but only 5% of that matters to their audience. And I've set up the audience and what they're going through. So how do you help them? I give them their audience's perspective of their message and how they talk about themselves, show them how to clarify it and how to create one way that's going to bring their audience from connection to conversion. So how does that work? Well, it's a simple process based around an elevator. And I explain this. By the time I get to the 5th floor and they ask about services, they're already hanging on the rest of the story. Services is what comes next to them. And that's the type of narrative that you need to create for your business. Otherwise, people aren't going to follow along. So what I would like to do is open it up to questions, but also a challenge. If any of you would like to tell me how you talk about yourself now, what would be your pitch now? And what you would say if I asked you the question on an elevator, what do you do? And let's talk about your answer and see what happens from there.
Any volunteers?
Anyone other than Precious?
Gotta stop.
That was unbelievable.
Kim,
Anyone
why
want
don't
to take
you,
a shot? I promise I don't bite.
Kim, you should share what you do.
Kim's
I
already
just
been a
did this
victim of
with
this.
Mike. Yeah, I did this
Oh,
with
you
Mike on
did?
Thursday. Yeah, I did. We do an event with him on Thursday.
Oh
So
my
yeah,
goodness.
let's get someone else. What
Okay.
about you, John? What's your pitch?
Yeah, John,
He-
hit me.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I didn't think of anything. I feel so on the spot. Okay. So
See how it feels? Just saying.
okay. I create shows. No, wait. I create TV shows to help brands deliver narrative and episodic content to set them apart in a crowded, noisy market.
All right. So if we're to run this through the way I think about it, what you just gave me is the third floor, the solution, with a little bit touching on the second floor about a crowded market and standing out. So ultimately, what you're trying to get them faced with is creating what you're trying to set them up with is this idea of rising above that noise. Look at all this programming, look at all these videos. Do you just want to be 50th percentile? And their challenge is going to be 50th percentile doesn't work. So what you're providing to them becomes that content that's going to convert or make you stand out. So thinking about how you position yourself on the bottom floor, if somebody asks you what you do, I get your customers to tune into your channel.
Okay.
What does that mean? There are a lot of channels, a lot of programming, a lot of content that's out there, and you can't get above the threshold and stand out. You need to create your own. The solution is creating that content and driving your own channel almost, or your channel approach to how you market yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So that would give you an entry point. Then you're talking about who you're helping, and what you're creating for them to make them stand out is your solution.
I love it. I love it.
That's how I think about the organization or the order of information.
Yeah. Yeah. And
That
that's
makes it
super
easy to
helpful.
process it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it makes it easier to think of new, when I am exploring how can I talk about my business different, having those frameworks are really nice to have. It just helps me process things easier.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And speaking of process, as you go down that, I create the content that makes you stand out. If the next question there is, how do you do it? And you jump right to services, it looks like a menu of things that you can choose from. Social media, this. But if you say it's a simple 3-step process where we evaluate what your channel lacks, we create the right programming for your channel, and then we develop it and support you as you broadcast it. It's a 3-step process. So think about bringing your car into the mechanic. If you say my car's broken and I'm the mechanic, I say, look at all these tools I have to fix it and just shake them out. That doesn't help you at all. But if I say, okay, let's get it up on the lift, open the hood, we'll figure out what's wrong. Step 2, I'll provide you with a diagnosis and what it's going to take to fix it. And once we align on that, step 3, I'll use the tools needed to get it repaired and get you on your way.
Mm.
Then the tools, services don't come across as a fast food menu. They come across as the first course, this is what you experience. The second course, this is what you experience. And it ties into that process. The ability to show your audience from beginning to end what they're going to experience with you becomes invaluable for them to understand how the services fit into that and to get them on board with it.
I love it. I love it.
Any other victims?
I'm not seeing anybody volunteering.
Oh,
I
that's
think-
all right. It's been a long day.
Yeah, Chris talked a little bit earlier about stepping out of your comfort zone, and Serena talked about facing your fears. Let the fear in, sit it down at the table, and let Mike take apart your pitch. Come on.
Well, even talking about how precious did it is you what you guys are responding to in the chat is her energy and her delivery, but that's half of the equation for her. That's her personality. She's able to bring that to life. But that doesn't mean that Tracy is going to present the exact same way. The magic of what Precious took you through was the order of information and how she set you up at the beginning and brought you through her journey. And I would wager that even if that was in writing and you couldn't relate to the energy right on the camera, you'd take away the exact same thing, because her ability to pitch is not solely based on her impact and gravitas. It's based on her ability to take you on that journey, and it is based on an order of information. When she talked to the sharks, that's exactly what she was doing, was bringing them through it. So they were, okay, what happens next? Okay, what happens next? And at the end, they have all the information. And that ultimately that should be the one way you talk about yourself. Before you think about your sales pitch, your website, your networking pitch, knowing that way to talk about your business in that architecture of how your audience will hold on to it creates the opportunities to pitch it with confidence, because you know they're going to be following. All of us have presented to a blank-faced audience before, and it doesn't feel good.
No.
Everybody's looking at you like, yeah, okay, that's awful. But if you know that they're saying, yeah, I get it, you're able to keep going. And that's the goal is, okay, you get this, great, I could go on to the next point. That's what you're able to do when you have it in the right order, when you talk about yourself in that order, in that way.
Definitely something we should all be practicing a lot, I think.
Yeah, we were talking, Tracy and I just said we should have this for our Connect show so that we talk about the show in a consistent manner, especially when we show up to networking events and, you know, our media that we put out, our posts, everything.
Yeah, there's so much that goes into a small business. First, you got to work on your mindset. And then you got to think about the community and growing this all these people. And then you got to think about how you're going to present yourself to all these people and be in the right mindset all at the same time and make money.
And the links, you talked about the links
and
earlier.
The links.
The links.
You got to figure out how to do links on everything.
Well, I tell people the three, I've done three sort of famous things in my life. I haven't written any books or received any accolades, but I got the voice talent of Optimus Prime really drunk one night. I named a dinosaur in the movie Jurassic World, and I got client service advice from Biz Marquee for 3 hours. So those are my three hallmarks. Take them for what they're worth.
They're awesome. I love it. I love it.
Well, thanks, Mike, for coming on. It was great.
Guys, thanks for having me. It was
I think
great
everybody
to see the show in action.
Everybody's just been great today.
Yeah, this has been fantastic. And before we get to our next guest, I want to remind you of the Small Business Shower once again.
We should get a recording of that.
Just do a commercial. I think we're going to do that. Let's make a commercial. That's what we're going to do. Next time you're in the studio, we're going to have studio day. It's going to be a hoot.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know somebody who could help you stand out with the business shower, the new business shower. He could create content that'll really make you stand out. Jon, it's Jon.
Yeah.
I was like, really? Who? Let's get him. That would be awesome. Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'll put my contact information in the chat. But if anybody would like to connect on LinkedIn, I'm there constantly. It's a 24/7 networking playground as far as I'm concerned. And all I sell is free 30-minute phone calls. So feel free to reach out if you're even a little bit curious. And my one promise is I won't be boring.
I had a great 30-minute phone call with you. I think it was 22 minutes and it was still fantastic. And our next guest is the co-host of the Connect show. She is a prolific networker, the owner of Small Biz Milwaukee, and Kim tells me a great boss to have. And we are so happy to have Tracy share about networking and how to connect with your clients. Thank you so much, Tracy, for joining us. Take it away.
Well, this has been a great event so far. I feel like I'm not going to be able to add too much more value to this event, but I'll try. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the benefits of virtual networking and where we've all come with the whole networking experience. And I'm sure we've all been networking in person like crazy before the pandemic started, and now we're networking virtually. And what I really like about the networking virtually experience is that it's opened up a lot of doors, including being more efficient in your networking, creating relationships that you would have never, ever found before had you not been able to get on Zoom or any other networking platform. So I just wanted to explain a little bit about what virtual networking is. It's meeting people on virtual platforms. One second, I lost my paper. And then learning more about people, what they do as a group. You can do them in a group setting like we're doing today, or you can do one-on-ones, which are great also, and then they're definitely saving everybody a lot of time. You can build better business relationships. So earlier today, Jeremy was talking about it takes 60 to 90 hours of building a friendship with somebody. And I don't know, I've built some pretty good relationships in much less time on virtual networking events. So I'd have to challenge that one. But
I've known Tracy a total of 14 hours and she's my best friend.
see, exactly my point. So another thing virtual networking does is that it helps you save money. You don't have to drive to the place that you have to go to. You don't have to buy food for yourself. You don't have to buy coffee or anything else. Not that you don't enjoy those things, but sometimes when you're just focused on getting to your goal in your business, these virtual networking events and virtual one-on-ones have become quite handy. I also like the fact that you can meet anybody from anywhere. Today, we've had many people on here today that are not in the Milwaukee or Wisconsin area, which is great. Just adds another element of why virtual networking is so nice. And it does save wear and tear on your car. So now you don't have to take care of your car as much, which is great. You can wear sweatpants and slippers. Like you don't have to come all dressed up anymore. You can just wear sweatpants and slippers and a nice shirt and you'll be great. The other thing I like about the virtual networking events is, like, for example, today on Zoom, you can have conversations with people while other people are talking, or when you're in between, like Jon and I would have a couple of conversations like who's going to talk next, or we should do this. And it's just great to have that. If you weren't sitting next to each other, if you were in a big room, you might not have been able to do that, except for you do have text, but you know what I mean? I mean, there is text, so maybe you could do that. But some cool things that have come out of the pandemic are the different kind of networking events that people have come up with. We have the Zoom with the breakout rooms. So you've gone to plenty of networking events and they go out and break out different rooms. We've done speed networking, which I found interesting. I like it and I don't like it because sometimes you just have more questions and you don't have the time to ask them. So that I really don't like, but it's okay. Virtual happy hours are pretty fun. Virtual Q&As, book clubs. I have not done a book club on virtual, but I'm definitely willing to do that. I think that would be fascinating. Wine tasting would be kind of fun. Dinner parties. I don't know how people do dinner parties, but all these restaurants are doing dinner parties on Zoom. They make these boxes. They pick them up, people come and they do their whole thing on Zoom. Like if you need to figure out a way to do something to stay in business and stay connected, just go to virtual. You'll come up with some idea. And over the course of the last couple of years, I've tried many different virtual platforms. Let me tell you, I've tried Zoom. I've tried Remo. I've tried Kumo Space, which was kind of scary because Jon had to go get rid of some guy who was in there who might not have had all of his clothes on. I've tried Blitzer, and that one was pretty good. That does a little bit more of like a speed networking thing. I've seen a lot of chambers having a lot of success on there. Blitzer is definitely something you should try out. I've tried Google Meet. That's all right, nothing spectacular. Hopin, I've been trying out, which you could actually do some conferences and some events in there. Like a trade show type of thing, have different rooms. Everybody would go into a different room. You could have different presenters. Showboat is great, but very expensive. And Virtual United. I was behind Virtual United when they first came out last January. It was these guys in Madison, this team of 4 created this whole networking platform called Virtual United, and they had to close down in a year. So I was a little bummed by that, but I supported them all the way, and we had lots of events on there. Anyways, so what I really wanted to talk about was the success that you can have with virtual networking events. And you could do this in-person networking events too, but it goes a little faster on virtual. You got to be quicker on virtual. You got to respond faster. You got to think faster. You got to move faster because everything is just going so much faster. You don't have that car time to think anymore. You're just going one to the other to the other. So how can you be intentional on your virtual networking events is the next thing that I think everybody should be paying attention to. Otherwise, your networking is not as successful as it could be. So are you going to these networking events that you're going to? Are you helping share and promote those networking events? Because it's just as advantageous for you to share them. Like all the guests that were on the show today, if they had shared it with all of their followers, which I'm sure they all did, that brings more guests and a community base where everybody can do more networking and meet more people. So I encourage, if you're going to anything, any type of networking online, and there's a place that you found the networking event, share that with your followers so you can bring more people to the event, and then everybody can prosper from that. And then I also suggest that when you're at the networking event and you're leaving your information, there are 4 different things that I suggest that you must leave in the chat. First, you have to have your name. Quickly put in what you do. So I normally just put down digital marketing or website design. I put networking events, just a couple of words, not a lot, not this whole big paragraph, just like a couple of words of what you do. Then the next thing, make sure you put your LinkedIn link in there, because you can click on it and go right to LinkedIn, and they know who you are because your name's right above it. And then right below that, if you do a lot of different things, I suggest you creating a Linktree link or creating a separate page on your website that is just got all of your links on it. So I have a page on my website that's Tracy Champagne / be my friend, and all my links are on there for all the places that you can find where I'm at. I just put that in the chat, and it just takes up this little space instead of this big long space that people don't want to sit there and read. So those are my suggestions for that. And then my next suggestion is that you create some sort of template, and I really like Google Sheets and Google Docs. So I would suggest creating a Google Sheet, and we created one for you today that you can copy and take on your own, and Kim's going to put that link in the chat. But for every event, if you can answer all these questions, say you at this event today, you didn't know somebody here, then I would suggest reaching out to them, creating a one-on-one with them. But when you do this one-on-one, these are the questions that you should try to answer when you're at the one-on-one. The first one is in this sheet, you want to put in the date of your event, so you can remember how you found them, because you're probably going to meet a lot of people when you do all these virtual networking events. Then you want to put down the event name of where the event was, and the name of the person who you met. Then in the next column, put in either their email address or their LinkedIn account so you can know how to contact them. Then in the next column, put in the one-on-one date that you're planning to have with them, or you had with them. Then there's 3 questions that I want you to ask for every single time that you go on a one-on-one with somebody is, how can you serve this person? And write that information down either before or after your one-on-one with them. How can you serve them? What can you do to bring them more business? What can you do to help them get more people their way? Then who can you refer to this person? Think about all the people that you know and write down a couple of names on who you can refer to this person. And at some point, refer them. Just send them over to them and say, hey, I think this would be a great person for you to meet. And then the next question is, how can you keep them included in all of your business activities? So do you do anything regularly? Do you have a newsletter? Do you have an event that you do? What do you do consistently in your business that you can bring them in so they can be on the journey with you? So figure out something to do for that and add them to that list of people. And then The next column is a thank you message date after you've had a one-on-one with them or after they've referred somebody or whatever the kind of connection is that you've had with them. Make sure to thank them for the experience that you had with them. And then the last question is, how do you plan to stay in front of that person? So aside from bringing them along in your journey on an event or whatever else you're doing with your business, how else can you stay in front of them? Can you just reach out to their LinkedIn account every couple of months or just reach out to them personally? So I think being intentional when you're at these networking events is going to make your relationships a lot more stronger and beneficial and worth your while and your energy. I mean, if you're going to go to these networking events, you might as well have a plan. So that's my speech.
That was fantastic. I love it. You gave like such a good framework for us to use in networking events, because I think we've all done so many Zooms that we are a little bit like just not aware of all these things that we know we should be doing that you're reminding us of.
Yeah, and you might know them, but you get a little lazy with it. So creating something that is there all the, like, just, this is the habit after this is what I do after each one.
Yeah.
If it can help you, great. If not, it's an extra sheet for you to have in your Google Docs.
If I can stop really quick, those of you that have had access issues, could you try again? I've gotten a few private messages. I think I might have sent it correctly, but Tracy originally created the document. So then I was editor. So I don't know if I have access to change it. Someone, either Gail or Bill, messaged me. Sorry. Thank you. Yeah. It's just, it wants them to be the owner. So, yeah.
So you can make a copy to your own hard drive from the Google Doc.
Well, that's what it forces them to make a copy, the way that the link that I provided them. So
and I will put
I just might have to play with it for a second
in the chat. Those are my list of questions that go across the top of the sheet.
Cool. Does anyone have any questions for Tracy?
It's been a long day.
It has been. We should remind everybody, we do have a networking event. It's the Epic Networking Event, Friday mornings at 10 a.m. If you have an opportunity to join us for a wonderful networking event. And the reason it's a little bit different is it's turning into a little bit of a mastermind, isn't it?
Yes.
It's kind of a nice little conversation where we're putting out big ideas, putting out the impossible goals is what we talked about last week. And everybody's having an opportunity to kind of coach each other on it. It's just a really great opportunity to grow as a business owner.
It's all you, John. You're our
Cool.
last presenter.
I am. So I'll make this as long and painful as possible. How long do I have? 45 minutes, right? Okay, good. So what I wanted to do today is, that camera makes me look really textured. That's interesting. Anyways, what I wanted to talk today is a recipe for success, and that's bringing everything together. So you're going to be really hungry by the time you get done with this. And me and Precious did not collaborate on the food idea, but I do love her talking about that plate. So the first thing I want to talk about is baking versus cooking. Baking is a science. You need to measure, understand the environment. Cooking is an art. So you can flavor it, spice it up, and making it to your liking without the restrictions that baking has. Marketing is baking because it is a science. You need to follow a certain set of rules in order for marketing to work. But marketing is also cooking because it is an art. And you can add that art form. And we learned a little bit from all of these presenters today. And what I'd like you to do today is make your own recipe that fits you. So marketing doesn't have to be, great marketing doesn't have to be measured by a lot of views or clicks. And you can have a lot of clicks and it's not great marketing. And before we go deep into this culinary analogy, I want you to think about your favorite meal, your best meal that you've ever had. And when you were at your best meal, there was an atmosphere, there was a lot of energy, there was good people, there's everything that made this good meal. The food may or may not have been the best, but the experience was the best, so you remember it as the best meal. There's no Google Analytics that tell you that it was the best meal. It just, you remember it as just that. So when you look at your marketing, what if you were to make all of your marketing like a fine meal? And to be honest with you, when we do marketing, think about the times when you get home and you take a frozen dinner out of the freezer and you serve it up, and you're in a rush because you just have to feed the family. And a lot of times we do that with our LinkedIn. We hear from somebody that we have to post on LinkedIn on a regular basis, or we have to do this or have to do that. So we just whip something up and we don't take the time to follow the science of baking a good post or a good media content. And we don't take the passion to create the good art and make something that's got a little bit of flavor to it. So how much richer would our life be? We spent a little bit more time cooking that perfect meal, or just cooking better, and how much richer would our life be? And the same thing with marketing is if we spent a little bit more time just creating a little bit of magic, a little bit of art and science. So everything that you learned today, everybody gave you different recipes for being successful, a different plan to market your business, get in the right mindset, create a pitch. So Mike and Precious both gave us information on how to create a pitch and talk about your business. And they both give us a framework. And Mike talked about that cadence that Precious pointed out. So they gave us the framework and the structure to follow, but they gave us also a lot of ways that we can spice it up. We can make it sweet, or we can make it a little bit spicy, depending on your tastes and your flavors. So create your own recipe, create your own flavor, but follow the science of the framework. And a key ingredient to any successful marketing recipe is what your ideal client says about what you do and the service you provide, the value that they bring. And those key words that they give you, think of them as salt and pepper of your beautiful dish. Their key words are the flavor that really sets what you do apart. So sprinkle those in. It makes all the flavors of all the concepts come together, because their words are the words that you need to use in order to describe what you do and how you bring value to the marketplace. So with that in mind, of course, everybody's walking in right now. With this in mind, let's talk about the framework and how you can use that for your own recipe. Your own recipe starts with the mindset. And Eleanor talked about clarity, and she talked about clarity, and that's what we're going to go with, because that's what I wrote down first. And then we talked about the how we tell ourselves the right things. And David Goodall, stop focusing on what you don't want. And Chris had a really good saying about how you become the person worthy of achieving this. And Jeremy's presentation about surrounding ourselves with the right people. And think about the right people that helped made that perfect meal, going back to that cooking analogy. And then when we heard from Tracy, Tracy is putting all of those together and bringing that all to the networking event. And that's, serving up that meal. Think of what Tracy does as the melted brown cheese on top of those au gratin potatoes. You'll eat them mushy potatoes, won't you? Because you want that cheese. Yeah, I want to have some cheese tonight. But that's what networking is. It's that good stuff on top where you bring it all together, right? So to wrap this all up, what I would like to do is challenge all of you to just take 3 things that you got today from all of the wonderful presenters that we had, all of the great things that they brought to the table. And they put a lot of, yes, the chocolate sundae is fine. You're the hot fudge, the crinkly hot fudge. Are you crinkly or soft hot fudge? I think that's the real big question. But back to the challenge of what I'd like you to do. Everybody here, write 3 things down that you'd like to achieve from all of our great presenters today. Schedule them on your calendar. Take 15 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is. Take action on the things that they taught you and they showed you, and hopefully make that perfect meal for you and your guests on LinkedIn and your other networking events and help grow your business. And with that, we need to hear if Tracy is crunchy chocolate sundae or the pourable kind of chocolate sundae.
The kind that you pour on and then it gets really hard. So it starts out soft and then it gets hard and then you stick it with a spoon and break it.
Yeah, the breaking, that's fun. That's fun. Fun stuff. Magic shell. Sarah Deacon is, we need to get Sarah on Jeopardy because she knows literally everything, doesn't she?
She does. She nailed it at the Christmas holiday thing with all the answers. She knows all of them.
Yes. Yes. If we ever have to do a trivia networking event and we need a ringer, Sarah is by far the one.
I'm curious if everybody that is here if they want to stick around a little bit, if they want to share 3 valuable things that they've learned in the time that they've been here today. I think that would be good for everybody to hear what everybody else picked up. I can tell you my 3 first. My first one is I have to figure out, what do I want? What do I want? That I got to figure out. Everybody says you got to figure out what you want. So I'm going to figure out what I want. I think I pretty much know what I want. Maybe I just need to write it down. And then the second thing I'm going to do is work on definitely the pitch thing. The pitch thing really got me good today. Got to work on figuring out how to do things in the right order, which is the biggest thing that I think I learned today, is that there's an order to that. And I need to figure out what that is. And what is the third thing? I think the third thing is the community thing from Jeremy. Kind of touched me a little bit, going, anything that you make or any kind of business that you're going to build, you got to think about that whole community around it and who are you serving, and you've got to do it for the right reason, for the passion, and not for you just want to make some money at it. You got to find the passion behind it. So those, I think, are my 3 things.
I love it.
There was a lot, but those are the 3 that I can think of right now.
Yeah, there's a lot to take in. And Kim, did you have 3 things?
I don't know that I'm ready for my 3 things. I need help with, I need to do my pitch. That's got to be, because that's my, I do a ton of networking, especially virtually. And so I do run into a lot of the same people, but those that don't, what kind of impression am I setting from go? Am I setting the boring Kim? Am I setting silly Kim? Am I, am I putting it kind of all out there? Am I putting just, so I got to do the pitch. Gosh, I don't know. I mean, there was a lot. I got to think back on it because I've been in Zoom land all day today too.
Yeah.
How to hold your potty for 3 hours while you sit on Zoom and manage the chat. How to not starve. Well, no, I'm just kidding. See, that's the silly Kim coming out. Like,
I love it.
Yeah.
You do you. That is awesome.
Yeah.
So the things that I grabbed onto were, David started off with the skiing thing. I run into trees, so I gotta start focusing on the snow. And then Chris said, "How do you become the person worthy of achieving this?" I loved that.
Mhm.
And Mike, when you talking about your business, I love the reminder. These are things that we know, but we need you to pull those 3 paragraphs out of that book, because we're too far into we're in the weeds.
and his
Well, John,
elevator ride up makes
if you
it.
remember Cy Sperling, the hair club for men, he was not only the president, he was also a client. I went through the exact same stuff. I couldn't figure out how to talk about what I do. And it's just because we know everything. It's a hard thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Anybody else?
Chris has been on the whole time. I'm sure he had some takeaways from other friends, right?
I love I love what Mike said about having that, how you talked about Precious's, her flow to it, and making that very clear and obvious, because you do. And even for my talk today, there was a certain flow. I wanted to point out a problem and then finish off with, kind of an emotional attachment to it. Because if you can't get emotionally attached with it, then that's how we connect with people, right? And so I think that's what all the speakers did create. That's kind of like the underlying feeling. How do we create that emotional attachment to our audience? Because ultimately in this new world, how are we going to connect if we can't see each other or, physically be with each other? So I think that's a huge
Chris,
one.
a very simple way to think about that is 3 basic types of emotion that you can attach to. One is exhilaration, dopamine, bungee jumping, and adrenaline.
Mhm.
But exhilaration is one marker. Empathy is another one. I feel for you. I understand what you're going through. And that creates that emotional tie on another level. And the third one, how many women have dated a guy who the first thing they said is, I like him, not because of what he looks like or money he makes, but because he's got a good sense of humor. And think about that, how much humor plays into emotional attachment as well. And that starts to give you a way to almost bucket the tone of your business.
Excellent. Thank you for that. That's a great way to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Stay funny, Kim.
Billy.
I also
Gail's been on a lot too. She's been on for a lot of it. Karen has. Serena's been on for a lot. A lot of people have their cameras off. So
I think Bill was the OG today.
is Bill
Do you have
still
any
on?
takeaways?
I must have scrolled past him. Oh yeah, Bill's been here. He came in before it even started.
Chris, were you gonna say something?
I just want to say that a couple of people have connected to me on LinkedIn. So thank you for the connections. I really appreciate it.
Great. That's awesome.
Cool.
One thing I've been on different things today, and so all my notes from the whole day, I've kind of shamashed her all together. But somewhere along the line today, I wrote down, I need to really look at the bucket list. And I like the idea. I put down the visual too of the tree, not looking at all the obstacles as you're skiing through it, but to look at the path and how do you want to take that intentional. My word was big, intentional. What's the trajectory to where I'm going and what am I focusing on? And so that seemed to be my continual note. I think it is interesting. I don't really have a bucket list, and I don't know if that's why I wrote it, but you're not going to achieve anything if you don't think of it. And sometimes what I get from these calls is, you got to dream bigger. I'm too short with it, and so maybe dreaming a little bigger and stretching yourself is something that's a takeaway for me.
Yeah, that's great.
I love that word stretch.
Big stretch, yeah.
Debbie Curris put in the chat, she's on a call, but her three things are her pitch, the energy she brings to a meeting, and sending a clear message.